We're live.
Woo!
And and the Jeffs are the only ones that are not in festive gear.
Yeah, what's going on,
Yeah,
guys?
really. Oh, you should have seen my daughter today.
Oh, yeah.
She was dressed to the hilt for school.
Okay. You'll have to hold that microphone close to your mouth.
She had everything from stockings to hair ribbons to a bell around her neck to ugly sweater. She had everything for school. She's been wearing my Christmas ties all week.
I love it.
All right.
I've been growing my Christmas beard. It's almost there.
Yeah, you look like Santa Claus.
Nicely. Santa.
Ho, ho, ho.
Come on. Let's hear it.
Okay.
That's the spirit.
System now.
That is scary. That is scary.
Just
all I can think about when I hear that is a dentist.
The dentist?
I imagine some bloke coming at me with a chainsaw with that on his head.
What dentist? Please elaborate.
It's from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's where that song comes from.
Okay.
The one elf wants to be a dentist.
Yep.
Oh.
Sorry, I did not put that reference together.
And I really don't like dentist.
I'm not getting any references today, apparently. All right. I'm going to turn the recorder on.
Isn't that the auto crash button?
Yeah.
And my son. Oh yeah, working good.
I'm gonna turn some knobs here. Hope you enjoy.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Oh shoot. Need to do one more thing. It's always one more thing.
What in the God's green earth?
What's the matter, Dana?
It's blue, not green.
It's not recognizing my Scarlet.
Your what?
It's not recognizing my input device into the audio hijack.
Oh,
I've tried to
switch
switch it
up as a.
Yeah, it is. I've tried to
like
switch it.
Not no VU meter or whatever. What? How can you tell it's not record?
It's saying red.
Well, you might have to plug maybe.
There we go.
Well, you figure that out.
I've got it.
Oh, what was it?
I just kept on swapping in and out, on and off, and reselecting it. And
okay.
Took it. I finally took it, so I'm recording.
Excellent. Everybody recording?
No.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, not you, Jeff.
Wrong, Jeff.
Yeah, when you're gonna say anything that you want anybody to hear, Jeff, you'll have to put that microphone right up to your mouth. Okay. Looks like you guys might be ready to do the clapperboard thing.
Could be.
What was your clue?
I don't know, just taking little hints.
I like the Christmas tree.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah.
A little festive.
It's mighty festive.
All right, let's do this. We're gonna go. Well, you know the drill. 3, 2, 1. All right. And payments received from. Just want to make sure I give proper credit here, where credit is due. All right. Yep, looks like it. Okay, and then one more page to go to. I can hear my keyboard. I'll get myself when I do that in the future. And messages. Notifications. Laughing all the way.
Wow.
Oh,
Sorry. Is that too loud?
That was pretty scary.
Do I need to turn my volume down?
No, it was fine.
No,
I
that's
wasn't
fine.
expecting
Oh,
it.
it's
Just wasn't expecting it. Yeah, I'm kind of with Steph on that one.
I'm sorry. I won't sing for you
It
anymore.
was almost like the Grinch came out of him or something.
A little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
the Christmas Patriots. Okay.
There we go.
Very good. Yeah.
I got one for the Red Sox too.
And we're not surprised.
No.
Well, the Red Sox are slightly more Christmassy.
Crispy.
Yeah,
Christmassy,
I
that is.
don't know where I was going there. Christmassy, because they've got red socks, and I'm sure Santa has red socks.
Yeah, well,
Mm.
that's a good idea. When we go to break, I'll go get the Red Sox one.
Okay,
Well,
so
certainly the one invented by Coca-Cola does.
hey, Dana.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I know you have 3 separate audio things that we'll do in the intro section. So I'll just let you tell me, just let me know when you want me to play each one.
3. Should we only be 2?
Well, I have a Savannah meetup with Eric. I have a Dana and Stephen Ivy.
Oh,
and
yep,
I have
yep.
a Dana BWI take 2.
You are actually correct. I'm sorry. I forgot about the Stephen Ivy one
Okay.
because I did both of them on the same day.
Ah. So anyway, when you're doing your intro section, I'll just, play the appropriate one at the appropriate time when
Okay.
you tell me to do it.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
And so now I'm going to go back to this and
WAPG. It's the airline pilot guy.
how's the volume on that?
Brilliant.
So-
Brilliant.
Fantabulous. Hooks.
Okay. And let's see if I have the thing for the that's what I'll use for the coffee fund. And I think, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to probably record the intro in post, but I'll play it anyway. I'll say something for
Okay.
the benefit of the video people.
You're too kind to them.
That strange tribe.
The video
people.
It's like the village people. Why?
YMCA.
People out there in YouTube land.
Yeah.
Oh, so what shall I say for your intro, Colonel Captain Good Looking Handsome Jeff?
I don't know. You always make something up anyway for everybody else. You might as well make something up for me.
Oh no, he's beyond making it up. It's
No, I don't make it
scripted.
Oh, I know. It just kind of blabbers out half the time.
Former U.S. Air Force F-15 fighter pilot,
Yep, that'll work.
current captain for a major U.S. legacy airline.
Okay, sounds familiar.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of them in here.
You have to mention the handsome bit.
Of
Absolutely.
course. Well, I couldn't go without doing that. Okay. Evernote, where are you? Where are you? Here we go. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Flown west. Erase that, or else I'll say it. Okay. And I'm in studio 3102. 3004. Okay. Here we go for those of you keeping track of the time.
I'm Radio Roger, and you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
WAPG. It's the airline pilot guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 354.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the airline pilot guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 3102 at the Hilton Hotel in Omaha, Nebraska. Today's show was recorded on the 20th of December, 2018.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the airline pilot guy. Would you ride and it's flying by with the airline pilot guy?
In today's episode, aviation news since our last episode. Of course, your great feedback. And the best part of the show, yeah, you know it. This week's plane tale, flown west. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 353 is ready for pushback. Flight 354 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast where, just as I said, we're going to talk about aviation news, and we're going to answer your fantastic feedback. Well, it's okay. Well, we're going to do some feedback. And here to help me with that effort is from her lakeside studio in South Carolina, a doctor, a skydiver, a marathon runner, strength training junkie, IPA connoisseur, and a commercial multi-engine instrument-rated pilot, our favorite backstabber, Dr. Steph.
Hey, Captain Jeff, just laughing at that one. That is another entry for the Explain Your Job Poorly column. I will be sure to note that one down and use it when necessary, when appropriate.
I should have said professional backstabber.
Professional backstabber.
I need to write that down.
That's okay. We'll remember that for next time. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And also joining us from his recording studio across the pond in the English countryside, a professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, and current captain for an international airline based in London, Captain Nick.
Not for much longer. Hi there, Captain Jeff, and a very Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you very much. And also joining us today, from his stately southern mansion in Smyrna, Georgia, barbecue master, motorcycle rider, party boat skipper, and captain for a major U.S. legacy airline, Captain Dana.
Well, hello there, everybody. It's great to be back on another episode and looking forward to another fun experience with this unbelievable crew. I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody out there, Happy Holidays, and Happy Festivus to the rest of us.
Love that one. Can't forget that. And also, one extra one here, a special guest host joins us today from his studio in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. A former U.S. Air Force F-15 fighter pilot and current captain for yet another major U.S. legacy airline, the good-looking, handsome Captain Jeff.
Well, hello, everybody, and I guess I can cover a little bit better than you did. Ramahama Kwanzmas. That covers everything.
All
Happy
right.
to be here.
Great to have you join us, Jeff. Now,
It's-
it seems like I've just recently seen you.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Recently?
Just a couple of days ago, I think.
I guess it was.
Yeah. On day one of my 4-day trip, on day 3 now.
Yeah,
Day
so that was
one.
Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. The good-looking, handsome Captain Jeff took a train down to downtown Philadelphia and met me at the Black Sheep Pub, which is a very appropriate name for the two of us.
Yep.
And we had a great time. Great meal, great beer, and great company. And,
Should my ears still be burning? I'm just curious.
well,
Oh, that was the fun part.
no, unless
No.
you have some kind of an infection.
Oh, okay. I'll get that checked out.
Okay, please do.
I'd go and see a doctor if I were you.
Sounds sensible.
I'm not a backstabber either.
Yeah, just stick one of those needles in your ear. And
I don't think that's recommended.
No? Oh, okay. That's why I'm not a doctor. Well, that's one of many reasons why I'm not a doctor. So yeah, we had a great time together, and thank you for my birthday gift. I should probably pull that out of my bag. He got me some fancy socks. They're like, well, hang on, let me go get them.
I can smell them from
you
here.
all just enjoy yourselves here for a second.
Quick while he's
Oh.
gone.
Maybe not too much though.
Yeah, well, you know,
Yeah.
The water doesn't do very much for having too much fun.
Mhm.
All right. There we go.
Wow, I'm not sure where he was storing those.
That's
but it
some
sounded-
noisy socks.
Is he messing with hell over there or what?
I don't want to know, Jeff. I don't want to know.
Shh. Don't say anything. Shh.
Newfangled things.
What'd you say?
Quickie back.
I hear you whispering something.
All the good things.
Sweet nothings in your ear.
Sure they are. You know this is recorded.
And
And
I'll
your
listen
point
to it. I'll
is,
hear what you're saying.
What's your point?
Look at this. Here's a birthday gift. My birthday is the day after
oh,
Christmas.
flying socks. Very
Yeah,
nice.
Look at that.
wait, hold them still because the video's a little jumpy. Ah, very nice.
Very nice.
They look very fuzzy and comfy.
Yes, they do. I have not tried them on, obviously, because they're still have the label on them. But thank
And
you.
for old men, keep the feet warm.
Well, there's
Yeah.
nothing worse than a birthday right after Christmas. My younger brother and his daughter are both New Year's Eve, and they always feel cheated.
Yeah,
Right.
I've kind of gotten over that, though. You know, whatever. It's just a birthday. I don't care. I don't need any stinking gifts anyway, because the best gift of all is just your friendship.
I'll just go return all that stuff I just purchased.
Yeah,
for
like
you
I
then.
mean, don't
Yeah.
go. No,
And wait a
I'll
minute.
give it to somebody else.
They don't take
Yeah.
beer back at the liquor store.
I know. I guess
Damn
I'll
it.
have to drink.
Yeah, me too. That's
okay. Well, I'll
I
help
don't
you.
even
with
like it, so but I'm still gonna have to drink it because they can't return it.
that. Anyway, so let's catch up with everybody here. How about that? Who wants to go first? Raise your hand. Okay, not everybody.
I mean, I
We're all
usually go first,
enthusiastic.
so I'll
was
just
bad.
jump in there with the usual. So it's been a dreary December here in the Charlotte area. So not a lot of extracurricular activities in the sky to speak of, but been doing a fair amount of running, so it was good. There was a 5K trail race at the Whitewater Center, which is the U.S. National Whitewater Center is here in the Charlotte area. It was the We Believe Santa 5K and then dog jog afterwards. And we've had a lot of rain. It is currently raining. It is pouring down right now. Everything, so this is a trail run. Everything is muddy, gross, disgusting. But it was a lot of fun. Somehow I managed to win my age group. Woohoo! And
Somehow.
Somehow.
Come on.
Well, if I was in the
If
if I was in the age group below mine or above mine, I would not have even placed in the top 3. Apparently, people my age were a little slower.
Slackers.
Slackers. And then we dressed up Taco, my little dog, in a Christmas tree sweater, and we took him out for the dog jog back on the same course. He was not very pleased with any of the situation, from having to wear a sweater to being out in a muddy, cold, wet environment. It's
I'm sure
not
that the
really-
Speedy Taco probably won first place.
we came in dead last. We were so slow. We did not even get an official finishing time because they were taking down the timing mat by the time we got back. I did complete the 5K with a beer in hand, with the last swig going down right as we crossed the finish line. And the announcer was quite enamored with Taco, and they were doing best dressed dog when we got back for their costumes. But he had all of the dogs and owners that were still there come down to the finish line and cheer us across the finish, because he was pretty impressed that Taco actually made it the entire 5K through the mud and muck. I'll put some pictures on Twitter later. It was pretty funny.
I was going to call the SPCA and the cruelty to animals people about making poor Taco go slogging through all that mud.
Yeah,
Yeah,
There's nothing worse than a muddy taco.
Yeah, he got a shower as soon as we got back.
Nothing worse than a dirty taco.
Nick, Dana, stop it.
We're talking about the dog, to be clear.
We're
here.
talking
Yeah.
about taco.
Okay.
Nothing smells worse than wet dog.
Oh, thank you.
I can tell that
Wet
you were
kitty
not
cat.
sure where that was going.
It was,
I was really concerned there for
That's
Jeff
the
was
relief.
sweating, literally sweating.
I was like,
there for
Well,
a
Jeff,
moment.
you have to realize
no.
I'm at home.
okay.
But,
So,
and I've been a little under the weather the past day and a half. You can probably hear a little bit. I feel like my voice is kind of scratchy. This seems to be what happens whenever I get sick. Nothing major, just a little, just not 100%, but I'm surviving. I'll be just fine.
How about the pustules, Steph? Where do they come from?
I'll have to take a look in the mirror later. I was not aware that
Yeah.
that had happened. But I apologize for those of you watching the video, apparently. But I'm hoping that my Happy Holidays beer will be the.
Well, he's got pustules as well. Look at him. That's where
Yeah,
it
no
came
kidding.
Oh, he
from.
kind of does.
And that's one big banana nose.
I think the lady does too.
Oh,
Mrs. Claus. I know.
Oh,
It's
Yellow.
delicious though, for what it's worth.
cute
Thank
couple.
you, Noda Brewing.
excellent. Well,
And
wow.
that about catches you up for me. Well,
Okay. Let's see. Dana, what
Hi.
what have you been up to, sir?
I have been out flying. I've been working quite hard. I've worked the last 7 of 8 days. Today is only my, well, actually, I shouldn't say today's my only day off because I do have, I'm off through Sunday and then go out on Monday, Christmas Eve day, and fly another 6 days in a row. No complaints here because I leave tomorrow morning to go to the wonderful city of Boston, spend a little time this weekend with the family. But the last 2 trips, the most eventful part of the last 2 trips was the false joking accusation of alcohol. Love that one when the passenger pokes their head in the cockpit and said, "Hey, you boys been drinking?"
oh
Yeah,
man.
So, what was your
Yeah.
reaction?
My reaction was, okay, I asked my FO, did you see who said that? He said, yes. He described him. I followed him to the back of the airplane and I pulled him aside quite privately and said, sir, did you really mean what you said? He said, no, I was just joking around. I said, well, that's not something that you joke around with. And in case anybody else has heard it, passengers, I'm not going to take the chance. I'm stepping off the aircraft, and the aircraft may take a delay now because I do not take alcohol accusations lightly. So then we had to go through all that process. I had my FO come off the aircraft. And the the agent was nice enough to also after I called our operations control center, spoke to the pilot on duty, and then spoke to chief pilot. We decided after we confirmed that the passenger was seriously just joking, that we were okay to continue. And through the grace of it being the holiday season, I allowed the gentleman back on the airplane. But that was not cool. Didn't like that at all. So other than that, that's the major course of action I had the entire week. It was beautiful flying weather. And what else happened? Oh, yeah. Some of my favorite restaurants I got to visit. One of them happened to be in the wonderful city of Baltimore, and we had a little meetup. I think that Jeff has some audio for us to listen to by chance.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nothing
No,
at
I'm
all.
just Here you go.
Wow.
Let me get
But-
to the proper device to play that, and I'm assuming it's going to be Dana BWI. Take 2.
That's it. Go ahead.
All right, let me hit it. There
Well,
we go.
hello there, APG community. This is Captain Dana coming to you live. Well, actually, now recorded from the wonderful restaurant called La Scala here in Baltimore. We're having a very small meetup, joined by some fantastic APG listeners, as well as my first officer that's flying with me here at Acme. And we've just finished our meal and have had a few adult beverages, not very many because both my first officer and I are on overnights, but they make unbelievable beverages here at this restaurant, La Scala. The food has been unbelievable. The company is even better, and we have some people have come from a great distance, or at least sat in a great amount of traffic to be here in Baltimore this evening with the wonderful traffic that they have here in the DC area. So I'm not going to introduce everybody. I'm going to allow everybody to introduce themselves. And the first person I'm going to hand the microphone over to, because everybody's tired of hearing my voice at this point. You can probably hear all the background noise, but I'm going to hand the microphone over to none other than, pick a name. He's got so many. Robert Richard, Haggish, Dick, Haggis. What was it? Hamish T. Haggis. That's what it was. I couldn't remember it, actually. So, anyways, I'm going to hand it over to Robert, and he's going to say hello at the Baltimore meetup, the number 2 Baltimore meetup, because Jeff just had one yesterday on Thursday evening. Today is Friday, the 14th of January. Did I say January? I said January. I'm way ahead of schedule, aren't I? I'm thinking about my schedule in January because I'm actually holding a schedule in January. But anyways, we're here December 14th, and here it is. Here's Robert.
Hello there in APG land. It is 2018 still, I think, and December the 14th with Dana and a bunch of people. And this is Dick, Haggis, Hamish, Richard, Robert, I don't know, Athole, something. I'm sure I have a name somewhere around here that we'll all figure out eventually. But tonight has been absolutely wonderful. We've had, I have to say, I've only met Dana once before, but the food here, as he says, is absolutely outstanding. The drink is even better, although we've only had a taste. You can believe me if you choose to. And it's been really wonderful with a bunch of company here that is hard to beat. So thanks for listening, and hopefully see you all in a different state of mind at some point in the future.
And hey there, my name is David Hobel-Heinrich. I work for Acme Airlines, and Dana has been my captain for the last 3 days. And he's been introducing myself with that crazy last name. Is just this guy with 14 letters that's so long he can't even pronounce it in front of all the passengers. So as you know, it's just been absolutely great over the last 3 days. So I knew nothing about APG until I met Dana. However, I'm here now and having an awesome time at this meetup. So great to meet you guys. Happy to be here.
Hey, gang, this is FO Craig. First off, I want to correct Dana, and since I'm a native of the area, it's not Baltimore, it's Balmer. So that's the correct pronunciation. No, it's been a wonderful night, meeting new friends, seeing old friends. The food has been unbelievable, some of the best Italian food I've ever had. And like everybody else has said, the drinks, though as few as they are, they've been great, and just having a great time as always. And it's always wonderful seeing these guys and having a good time. So I'll pass it on.
Hello, APGers. This is Captain Scott, but a different kind of captain. I'm a Navy Captain Scott. So this is my first time joining up in the APGers, and it's been a great evening of getting the aviation geek on and having a couple drinks and getting to meet some people who had the same passion that I have for aviation. I made a career out of it in the Navy, and I'm hoping to make a career out of it, a second career out of it in the real world. It's been a really treat getting to meet folks, and I look forward to doing it again in the not too distant future. I'll pass it on to Captain Dana.
Well, as I said, I'd let everybody introduce themselves. Robert. David with the 14 letters in his last name, which I have not been able to even try on this trip. It's been an absolute pleasure to fly with you, David. FO Craig, unbelievable to meet you as well. And Scott, I really do wish you the best, and I think that you should go forward with every opportunity that we've discussed this evening. And the drink of the evening, Scott, do you want to tell them what the drink of the evening has been?
It's a very watered down old-fashioned. It's an old-fashioned, but not watered down at all.
I didn't think so. So if you ever come to the wonderful establishment here in Baltimore, Balmer, as I've been corrected, Balmer.
Merlin.
I can't even say that as a Bostonian. Balmer Merlin. If you ever come to this establishment, which I highly recommend, by the way, and I have 4 other people that have attributed to the or not attributed. Well, that's probably the wrong word. Attested to. That's the proper word that I was looking for. Attested to the fact that the food here is fantastic, as well as the liquid libations. Let me tell you what, it's an absolute pleasure to meet these gentlemen tonight. I wish them, especially Scott and FO Craig, the best of luck. FO Craig is nice and young, and he's looking forward to a very nice future in the airline business. And Scott is looking at what he wants to do after retirement from the long service he's had with the U.S. military. And thank you very much, Scott, for everything you've done for our wonderful country. And we actually, speaking of that, we had a first-class passenger today on our aircraft walk up to our flight attendant and said, "Is there any active military personnel on our aircraft?" And I was really quite taken back by that. It was really, truly an honor to see a gentleman that was sitting in first class ask our flight attendant that. And flight attendant made the PA, "Anybody in the military that's active, please ring your flight attendant call button." And he then gave his seat up in first class to the active military member. So my hat's off to all those folks in the military that are active and or former military members and what they've done to protect our liberties and freedoms in this country. And my hat's off to Scott, who's sitting right to my right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand it back off to Jeff. We're going to continue to have some fun here at the La Scala Restaurante in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm still trying to get that right. I can't. Anyways, back to you in the studio, Jeff. Thank you, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Here I am, back in the studio.
Well, I have a couple of the things I want to add to that real quick. The FO I was flying with, 26 years old, made me feel old. I was really old enough to be his dad. I've slowed down my speech there only because I want to try to pronunciate things better, and I'm working on that actually. Because I
back with Baltimore,
Maryland.
Pronunciate.
He was drunk.
No,
I wasn't. I was not actually. Actually, I had only that evening had 2 old fashions, and they, by the way,
2 buckets of old fashioned.
Yeah, no, not buckets. I can assure you that I was on overnight. I don't drink that heavy, but I was told by David that that's the best old fashioned he'd ever had, and he's had a lot of them. He said, and that's about it. I thank Robert, David, Craig, and Scott for coming out. It was a great time. And speaking of seeing more people.
Yeah, like you were talking to that young gentleman, First Officer Craig, young, and you're young first officer. Did you see any other young first officers?
As a matter of fact, great lead-in, because I happened to actually go out on, we kept the airplane in Atlanta. No way, that doesn't ever happen. So I stepped out to meet up with an old-time friend of mine that is now flying for Southwest. And he came over to the gate to see me because he had some time on the ground. I was having a nice conversation, and then by chance somebody saw me and came over and said hello. So go with it.
Oh, okay. Let's find out who that might be.
Okay. Hello, APG community. This is Captain Dana here in Atlanta. Just arrived, just stepped off the aircraft, and lo and behold, I bumped into somebody very famous that we all know and love, and think that he's a great guy, and see him in his full uniform is unbelievable. And I'm not going to really delay very much more here. I'm just going to put him on so he can introduce himself. He's standing here smiling and glowing and ready to go. So here we go.
Hey, everybody. It's First Officer Stephen. Just commuted in from Chicago, and I was walking down to the plane train and saw this really good-looking fellow at the gate and thought I'd walk up and say hey to him, and lo and behold, it's Captain Dana. Yeah.
Tell us how you doing.
Yeah. So I just came from Chicago, got done with working some stand-ups up there, and then got some time off before Christmas. Unfortunately, I have to be on call Christmas Day and the day after Christmas, but that's part of being a new guy. Other than that, the flying's good. Finished my 700 OE a couple days ago, and still getting used to the differences between 200 and 700. But other than that, doing great.
So, Steve, are you really enjoying making this big leap that you've made over to becoming a pilot?
I don't think it was till this morning. I was in South Bend where the survey company I used to work was based out of. I was pulled in front of the hangar. I was like, I'm so glad I'm sitting in a jet now than flying a survey plane around. And it's been a great experience. The training, just flying a jet around and then coming out of the big airports, everybody else. It's a great experience. I'm loving it.
Awesome. What about the advice, the same advice that we give to all of our listeners about the fact that, being a career changer and whether you should do it or not?
I mean, if you've followed along, I went from having a great job with the power company here in Georgia to making minimum wage, flying survey, to now being a first officer for a regional airline. It's not easy, but if you want to do it and have the determination to do it, you're going to succeed and you'll be able to accomplish your dream.
So it's all worth it. It's fair to say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all worth it.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, Stephen. It's great to see you, buddy. Great to see you in uniform. Congratulations for making the big jump. Hey, back to you, Jeff, in the studio. Bye-bye.
Watch out for the cart.
It was getting awfully close there, wasn't it?
It was getting real close.
I was getting very nervous. Those electric carts, man.
Yeah, I tell you what, they'll run you over in a heartbeat.
That's how I'm going to die, probably before I retire. It's getting run over by one of those electric carts.
So yeah. The funny part was
would you please do me a favor? Would you put my casket on one of those carts?
Yeah. It's a nasty way to go, Jeff. It takes about 5 minutes for them to drive over you and to kill you. So, yeah.
and then it ends with an electrical shock.
But low voltage, like it takes ages to die.
And the thing's still going.
Well, that's what eventually kills you. It's the noise.
The big ones in Atlanta have noise to them.
Well,
we all have that to look forward to. So
I love the ambience. I didn't actually have a microphone. I'd used my iPhone. It actually sounded pretty good. And then the next thing I know, the passenger that was standing next to us wanted to know if I was going to interview him.
Why didn't you interview him?
I would have interviewed that person. No, who are you?
I would have totally done that. Like, you're next, buddy. Let's go.
I'd already stopped the recording and needed to get down and do some work before I got in trouble. So
next time.
But anyways, amazingly enough, I've had a busy week.
Mm-hmm.
It was very busy because I put it out there. I'm going to put something out there in January because I've got some another great overnights coming up in January, including I think 3 in Philadelphia. Jeff. Anyways, I put it out there that I had a meetup or anybody was willing to come out and meet me in Savannah. So why don't you roll with that one, Jeff?
Okay, here we go.
G community, this is Captain Dana here in the wonderful city of Savannah, Georgia. I have had a nice day of flying. Flew from Pensacola, Florida, via Atlanta, which I had the unique opportunity to bump into Stephen Ivy, which you at this point will either have heard the recording or will be hearing the recording. And then flew over here to Savannah, and the weather's just been fantastic. Fortunately, I put out a notification to see if anybody was willing to come out and meet up with me, and had Eric go ahead and reach out to me and say, hey, I'd love to come meet up with you. So we just came from a fantastic place called the Sorry Charlie's. It's a oyster bar here in the Savannah area. Anyways, what I'd like to do is hand the microphone over to Eric, because I know you guys love hearing my voice all the time, but more importantly, let's hear from our listeners. And Eric is going to introduce himself and tell him a little bit of himself. And then if at the end I can think of some questions to ask him, we'll do that as well. So here it is. Eric, here you go.
Okay, Eric, talk in the microphone. Eric.
Hello, APG community. Eric here. I've been flying for about 13 years off and on. Spent the better part of 20 years in the United States Army, and this year was fortunate enough to be able to go into a partnership in a 1967 Mooney M20F, and have been flying that for about 40 hours now since June, and it's pretty nice being able to get out and fly around the Southeast United States.
All right, Eric, you're telling me about some of your adventures that you've been on flying, and you showed me a really nice picture of Mount Fuji, right? And Mount Fuji, and some really nice pictures of 4 172s that have some exterior art on them. I can't even describe how awesome they looked. But why don't you tell me a little bit about your flying experience in the Tokyo area?
So prior to moving to Savannah, Georgia, I was stationed in Japan, just outside of Tokyo, and was fortunate enough to be a member of the Aero Club at Yokota Air Base. And the club has 4 Cessna 172s. Some of them were former Air Force trainers, and then a couple 172 Mike models. But they all have some type of samurai livery on them, and so they each had different meanings. But it was pretty awesome being right outside Tokyo, and used to take friends and whatnot up and fly over downtown Tokyo, and VFR flying over there is much like it is here in the United States. And as long as you're staying out of Bravo airspace, you're pretty much good to go. And I tell you that Mount Fuji from the air is definitely gives you a whole nother perspective on life. Really, it gives you something else to reflect upon, seeing something so beautiful and very majestic. Yes. So yeah, Tokyo is great.
Awesome, Eric. Well, on behalf of the APG community, thank you for coming out and meeting me today. I really enjoyed our conversation and a little bit of banter about flying, of course. You've been listening. You told me you've been listening to APG now since 2016, was it? Right around 2016. And certainly appreciate you listening to the show and taking the time to listen to all the rhetoric we have and at least be 50% right, I hope. I'm going to sign off from Savannah. I'm going to go ahead and send it back to Jeff in the studio. Thank you, Eric, for coming on out today. It was enjoyable. And here you go, Jeff. We'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.
And thank you for joining us today on the Captain Dana Show.
Hey,
and it's
we haven't seen him for a couple of
ever.
weeks. He's got to make up for lost time.
And not only that, but it's when have I ever done any of this interview stuff? Ever, really,
Yeah.
ever?
We're
all,
just
all
kidding
in one
around.
show. That's
He's
beautiful.
And it will
See you
never
guys.
happen
Have a good
again.
time. We'll see you next time.
And with that, Dana resigns from. No, just kidding.
That took up all 3 hours of the show. So sorry. Just kidding.
Sorry.
No, just some folks in the chat room were making comments like that. So I just
Oh,
thought
they're so rude, aren't they?
They are. Very.
Mm.
Shame on you.
Want to give everybody their fair chance to be in the show. Of course,
Definitely
you didn't have to play it all this week either.
Yeah, that was actually great stuff. I'm glad that you recorded it all. It was nice to hear from all the folks up at Baltimore, Maryland. And
Man, you're sounding drunk.
The Baltimore, Maryland contingent of listeners.
Yeah, good luck in saying that. And Wiz Hillel, I mean, come out of the closet there, Hillel. Please tell me what it really sounds like. I couldn't say it.
Hey, I knocked him out earlier.
Oh, I forgot Jeff is here.
I'm just too busy laughing and on mute just at all the stuff that's going on.
Well, since you're talking right now, why don't we just segue right into what has been happening with you, Captain Colonel Jeff?
Not a whole lot. I go out on the trip. Gotta get up around 2:45 in the morning tomorrow to go out on a 4-day trip. Get back to Kennedy about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Christmas Eve, which is good because it gets me home in time for not for dinner because dinner's going to be a mess. But I sing in a choir, as Jeff knows, and we're doing the service that night, and I got to be at the church around 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, so I'll be home in time for that and be able to do my part and hopefully not break any windows. And then I'm off till the 1st. I go out late in the day on New Year's Day. And then eventually I end up in Atlanta at the end of January, so maybe get to do something else.
Well, that's funny. I'm going to be in Philadelphia at the end of January. Darn it.
Well, depends which day at the end of January.
We'll talk about it off there.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll have some sort of meetup with some of the Atlanta folks toward the end of the month. Anyway, well, yeah, excellent. So,
and thanks for telling me about that Rick now lives in Phoenix. I miss him by a day.
Oh no.
He left this. He left this afternoon.
Oh.
I was
Darn
going to
him.
see if I was going to see if I can get him on the show today, but he's not there.
No.
Yeah.
I was going to
He
sneak
should
him
have
in
rung
if he'd been
his
around.
bell.
Pretty sure he posted on Twitter or something. He was on his way to Japan. But
Yeah,
Oh.
he and I
okay.
were DMing on Twitter.
Damn.
Well, if you can get him on the show, we'll be forever grateful to you.
Yeah.
Well, if he'd been in Phoenix, I was going to sneak him in and not tell anybody.
Yeah, just hide the microphone.
That's right.
Tell him.
That's right.
Oh, that's good. All right. Let's see. Captain Nick, I believe you're the only one. Well, I have a couple little things to say as well, but Captain Nick, why don't we hear from you? How have you been, sir?
Well, I've nothing to say, but I am going to give my time to the honourable member from Maine, if you'll bear with me for a second.
Not again.
The speaker anymore. In 3, 2. Henry Close was an amazing man. He's responsible for so many things we've taken for granted over the years, yet most of us never heard his name. I'm pretty sure Nev knows who I'm talking about. Wouldn't surprise me if Hamish T. Haggis knows who he is too. The old pilot may have heard of him, and maybe Captain Jeff. Want a hint? Have you ever heard of the Acoustic Research brand of speakers? How about KLH? Henry Close was the founder of Acoustic Research and was the K in KLH. He created the acoustic suspension loudspeaker and arguably the first high-fidelity cassette deck. Now, I could go on and on about Henry Close and many of the products he developed, but the one I want to talk about with you today is the Advent loudspeaker. They made 2 models. They may have had model numbers, but anyone who bought or sold them referred to them as a large or small Advent. Their acoustic suspension design was created to bring the listener an accurate, uncolored sound. They weren't the most efficient speaker, but when paired with the right receiver and inputs, it was hard to get better audio from anything else. They also weren't very expensive for the time and gave you a great bang for your buck. The Advent Corporation had a short lifespan, about a decade or 2. Their speakers, though, could last about forever, and even though by the early 1980s they were no longer made, many people still have them, and they work and sound as wonderful now as they did then. For years, every time I heard the word Advent, all that came to mind were those wonderful Advent speakers. These days, however, another thing comes to mind. Remember Wings Over Pittsburgh? It was an amazing air show, put together single-handedly by Captain Rick Bell. Okay, so maybe he had some help, but as far as I'm concerned, it was Captain Rick's show. And what a show it was. There was a C-130 flight demonstration team, the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds, an F-22, P-51, F-86, B-52, E-175, F-35. I could go on and on. It was also a 3, maybe 4 podcast meetup. The airline pilot guy was there, of course, but also PTUK and the airplane geeks. No, not just me and Brian, but Max Flight and David Vanderhoof, too. And of course, there was the late Drone Mama from the UAV Digest. There were so many highlights to that weekend. I got to pick up Matt Smith at the airport after his first ever solo flight, which also happened to be his longest time spent in an airplane to this day. I was also there to pick up Carlos and Adrian Meacham. There was a chance to visit with Pasadena Brian again, and to not only again share an ice cream, but share a microphone with Captain Al. And sitting in the hotel courtyard next to lovely Liz Piper while taking part in a live APG episode and plane spotting at the same time? Well, how much better can it get? There's another highlight, however, that comes to mind when I think back on Wings Over Pittsburgh. It was very special, a bit personal, but one that I'll share with you today, one pertinent to this little story. You see, on Sunday morning at Wings Over Pittsburgh, I went to Mass with Captain Jeff. No, silly, I didn't convert to Catholicism, and no, I wasn't struck by lightning either. I made sure I was standing very close to Jeff on the way into the church, just to make sure I wouldn't get hit. You see, as far as I know, God doesn't care for collateral damage if he can help it. But when Jeff told me he was trying to figure a way to get to Mass on Sunday, I thought to myself, gee, Jeff goes to Mass on his own all the time. Why not give him some company if he wants it? So I told him that if he wanted company and was okay with it, I'd drive him and come along. Anyway, we went to Mass together, and we learned a lot from one another. I hadn't been to a Catholic service since a midnight Mass I attended while still in high school. It's a long story, but I was with a bunch of friends. We had been drinking a little bit. Okay, drinking a lot. And rather than take me home first, they took me along to Mass. You should have seen the looks I got. Other than that, I don't remember much of it. I remember much more of this Sunday Mass, though. I was able to compare and contrast the similarities and differences between Catholic and Jewish services. I think Jeff was shocked when he heard me recite Our Father. It's not from a Jewish service, but we said it every day in school up until I hit the 2nd grade. Even I was surprised I remembered it. And as I said it, I got to really think about it for the first time and realized there's nothing really sacrilegious in it for me. Maybe it's a bit sideways for Judaism, but not in a bad way. After Mass, while driving back to the hotel, Jeff and I talked a lot about our experience, about religion, and about religious philosophies. It was a rather unique and special conversation. We've talked about it a few times since when we've had a chance to visit. These were very special conversations that I don't think either of us could explain to someone else. Yet I think it's still something that can be shared with you here, like this. Anyway, so where is this going? Well, these days, when I hear the word Advent, I still think of Henry Close and those marvelous acoustic suspension speakers of his. But I also think of that time at Mass with Jeff at Wings Over Pittsburgh. I think about this time of year in the Catholic Church and the Advent. But also, I think of Captain Jeff, not just because of the time he took me to Mass, but because his birthday comes right after the Advent on December 26th. Happy birthday, Captain Jeff. Although I know it's a big year for you, I won't say what year it is, but congratulations. You're the same age as my brother, and although we're not brothers by blood, we certainly are family in other ways. Thanks for being you. Oh, and thanks for keeping me from getting struck by lightning back in Pittsburgh. For the Airline Pilot Guy podcast, here in Portland, Maine, happy birthday, Captain Jeff, from your main man, Micah.
Happy birthday, Captain Jeff.
Happy
Not
birthday,
quite there.
Jeff.
Happy birthday, Jeff.
Happy
Yay.
birthday. It's not my
Happy birthday.
birthday.
Yay.
No, it's not your birthday. We know that.
I still
but-
have 6
Happy
days to go.
birthday to you.
Sorry about that.
Nick and I just both wish we were as young as you.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
not, thanks for, Micah, for bringing that up. Coming up
I
here.
guess you're a Christmas present, are you? A Christmas baby.
Yeah, a little bit belated by a day. Yeah. My mom
well.
thought that they had gone to a party, a Christmas party the day before, and she had eaten a lot of different things, and she was obviously very pregnant, and I think she ate some chili or something, and she thought that she was having indigestion or something the next day. And then when I was born, of course, everybody had indigestion.
Aww.
Anyway, so yeah, I was a little bit early. I think they were expecting me sometime in January, and but I came.
Jeff, I didn't miss the holiday. I'm a twin, and we were born on Labor Day.
Oh, how appropriate!
Perfect.
Oh, very good. Yes.
Oh,
yes,
that
we
explains
do
a
like
lot.
that.
Now that I know you're a Virgo, Jeff.
Well, occasionally my birthday falls on the Memorial Day holiday weekend, but I was a couple weeks late. So my mom was ready to get that over with for sure.
So you're at sometime, what, May?
May, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Micah.
Well, happy birthday, Jeff. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We might actually do
We'll say it
another
again next week too, because it probably will still be.
Yeah, thinking we might be actually
Right around
closer
your
next show. I don't know when we're going to do the next show, but we'll see. But thank you very much for the kind words, Micah. Always good to hear from you. And well, he's been a feature on a couple of our shows now.
Just a few. Yeah. Absolutely. No, it was a nice, lovely piece of audio.
Yeah.
And in Micah's defense, I did edit that just a tiny bit. So I hope it doesn't upset you, Micah, because just needed to cut a tiny bit out. There you go.
Well, that's why it didn't make any sense. Sorry, Mike. Butchered that.
No. I edited the bit that did make sense.
No, actually, It was and thank you for yeah, that was a good time, great memory in Pittsburgh, and yeah, so wow, it just shows you how great everybody is here in this community that we have, and thank you very much for the birthday wishes, and thanks for reminding me that I'll be 60 next.
Woo! Hey, mate, that's
Milestone.
easy. You wait till you get to 70.
Well, I hope I make it.
Well, you're not there yet either. So.
Yeah.
No, but it's creeping up on me.
Yeah.
He's still waiting like me.
All right. Wow. Okay. Do we
Well,
have
so
time
that means
for
only
Liz, do we
5
still
more
have
years of you in front of me in seniority?
Yes, that's what it means, Dana.
You can check one more off the list there, Dana.
You were supposed to have pushed him in front of that bus, Dana.
Or the
Well, you
Personal,
know.
it's just a
Cart.
seniority number.
The
In the
electric.
concourse is what you were supposed to have put
Yes,
in front.
in front of the cat that goes beep beep.
So you know what? It's going to be every time I hear that beeping noise of an electric cart, it's going to be like the Jaws music.
Dun, dun,
You have to just make sure
dun,
Dana
dun.
is not anywhere around
Yeah, so
you.
we're going to run out of the way. But yeah, so when I was originally hired 30 years ago, by the way, well, you know this, I celebrated my 30th anniversary. We talked about it on the last show. Thank you again, everybody, for the very nice wishes. Yeah, I was gonna retire this month because at that time the mandatory retirement age was 60, and now it's 65. So good thing, because I still need to make money for the next 5 years to replenish savings spent on my kids' college education, which was definitely worth it for sure. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Do I sound sincere?
Nicely said, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, good. I should probably not say anything else. But wow. Okay. Anything else going on, Nick?
Facial expressions on a podcast.
What's that?
I said, good thing people can't see facial expressions on podcasts.
Yeah, well, if they look at the
Just
video, they'll see.
go to
it's
YouTube.
all- Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got over. I just got over my little stomach upsets. So I lost my last trip. They didn't give me another one, so I'm off now till January. So I've got
Oh,
nothing to do but wear stupid pullovers and try and get a drink through part of my drinks cabinet. You know,
Let's
just
see.
if
Let's
I
see
can-
that sweater, because I think it also lights up. And we apologize to anyone watching the video who suffers from epilepsy, because it's,
You might be in trouble.
in fact, if you suffer from epilepsy, don't go back and watch the video. There's
Okay,
a lot
wait,
of
okay.
flashing lights.
Nick, say
It
something so we
is.
can hear-
It's
oh.
coming now.
Oh, look at that.
Yay!
Nice.
That is an ugly sweater.
Ah,
done.
go on. It's lovely.
You win the ugly sweater.
Hooray!
Yes.
It's a Mad Dog sweater for those on the podcast.
Boo.
What is hanging from your microphone there too? Is that like some sort of attempt at mistletoe?
Spit.
What's-
Pair of red testicles.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I instantly regret asking.
I was afraid to ask
My
earlier,
apologies,
Steph. I
Captain
was
Jeff.
thinking the same thing.
They're little robins. Little robin red breast.
Oh, I can see the birds. Okay.
Aw.
Yes.
Little robin.
Steph, haven't you learned by now?
You know, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna apologize. My bad.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
much for her
I-
being good HR.
I think we have lost control already.
Yeah.
All downhill from here, folks.
Yes. And I might have to
That
go
can't
get
be
a
very
drink to
far.
enjoy this a little more.
No, it doesn't. We're not very, haven't climbed very high, so there's no very far to go.
True. True. Well, just quickly, last episode when I was in Baltimore with Hillel.
Merlin.
Merlin, recording the episode 353. Right after that, we left there, walked several blocks up to the, what was it called? Fire station number 16 or something like that. Fire station 16. Does that sound right? Anyway, it was a brew pub, and we met up with Brian and his son Ethan. And Brian is a lifelong friend. I think they have known each other since preschool or something ridiculous. And so we met them up there at the fire station. Had a great dinner and some great beer and great conversation. And Brian gave me, he works as what do you call that? Promotional products kind of stuff. Crown Trophy is the company that he owns. And he made a couple of coasters. I didn't bring them with me, but like the airline pilot guy square logo that you see on the podcast. He had a couple of coasters made up, which are really nice. And so thank you very much, Brian, for that. Very nice to meet you and your son. Very sharp young man. And let's see. So I just wanted to mention that and acknowledge that. And we received some stuff in the APG PO box. And now I don't know if you all can see the intro notes, crew. But in the box, this is from a gentleman that Dana and I met up with last year. Well, earlier this year, actually. I keep thinking it's already 2019. I'm jumping ahead of myself. I don't remember exactly when it was. Dana, do you? Was it like in the spring or something, or before? I don't know.
I don't know exactly when it was. It was
one of the last trips that you had as a first officer.
It was April. I think it was either end of March or beginning of April, because you were my third to last.
Okay. Yeah. So Austin Nazca is the gentleman who sent us the nice little goodies box into our APG PO box, and he sent in a note. And I need to make this bigger so I can see it. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Let's see here. Maybe I should do it over here so I can actually look at it. The note that he sent in with our goodies goes as follows. Oh, here we go. I have to press this button. APG crew, sorry for the late delivery of these CVN 77 souvenirs. Additionally, please find the attached keychain luggage tags. My wife makes these out of recycled military flight suits and genuine leather. Air Force wings for Captain Jeff, and I'd rather be flying for the rest of the crew. Thanks for all of the entertainment and encouragement. And he goes on to say, I start at an airline, I guess we can say what it is, Southwest in March. And he said, Acme, not Northeast. Yeah, it's kind of hard. Maybe we'll come up with something different. Maybe Acme Heart. And could not be more excited. So yay, congratulations. So he made his transition from the military career to his start of a great, I'm sure, airline career ahead. And he finishes up with saying, I hope you have a great holiday season. Sincerely, Austin Nazca. And then he had to put in parentheses, like we couldn't remember who this guy is, the aircraft carrier guy from Norfolk, Virginia. And so in that box was a couple of really, really nice ball caps. And they have the USS George H.W. Bush, which is the aircraft carrier to which he was assigned. And it's a nicely embroidered aircraft carrier and some jets with red, white, and blue smoke, and it's a CVN 77 and some nice scrambled eggs on the bill of the caps. And then, as he mentioned, the luggage tags that his wife makes from flight suits, which is really cool. And so I get the one that's the Silver Wings from the Air Force, and you all get the rest. And I'm assuming that. Austin. Pardon?
I said thank you to Austin.
Thank you, Austin. Nice, and no, I didn't forget about you, Austin. I was really thinking of you a lot recently with the passing of George H.W. Bush, and the photograph that we took on the carrier deck with his statue, and the time that we got to spend with you. So no, you were not forgotten at all, Austin. Thank you very much for that experience.
Yeah, we had a great time. That was awesome. Fantastic. You're such a nice guy, and I'm so happy. We're so happy for you starting your career in the airline. So that's just awesome. And again, thank you for the wonderful gifts. And
I'm actually sad he's not coming to Acme.
Yeah, me too. I don't know why he decided to go. I don't, who knows? We'll talk with him sometime. Hopefully. Have a beer or two and see what's up with that. But
maybe he just wanted to fly a Boeing.
So every once in a while I fly on Acme Heart. So maybe I'll see you from time to time. Also.
That's why he did it. He wanted to see Steph as much as possible.
That's right.
And who could blame him? Okay, let's see.
Jeff, just before we move on, I got
Oh, do
distracted.
I have another surprise?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. I got distracted by having to do Mike's audio there, and I completely forgot the one thing I was going to tell you about, which is I got a message from one of my fine flying buddies, Johan. Now, Johan is going up for his captain's course very shortly, so good luck with that, Johan. But he also instructs for an outfit in Scandinavia, as I like to say. So he did mention that he's got a lot of Turkish airline cadets who he's working with. And one of them started talking about being a fan of APG. Now, I had no idea that we had a fan base amongst the Turkish recruits who are trying to become airline pilots. Johan was able to show him a picture we took together on one of his trips. Apparently they all listened to the show during their training, and they would love to have a shout out on the next show. And Johan's 4 guys in particular will listen. And there's a lovely guy called Baris Osno, probably. I'm not quite sure the correct Turkish pronunciation for that, so my apologies. He's the biggest fan, but apparently he says we've got hundreds of Turkish cadets and trainee pilots listening, and I think it's fantastic. So they're all out in Stockholm at CA training out there, and I just want to do a quick shout out for them. Wish them the very best. Good luck in their training, and thanks very much indeed for Johan for getting in touch. And I've only got a few months left with Acme Red, but I would love to get a chance to fly with him again. But he's going up for his command training, so it may not happen either way, but it'd be very sad. But anyway, great to hear we've got listeners out amongst the Turkish flying community, and thank you very much indeed,
I
guys.
must have misunderstood what you said. You said hundreds of
Well,
Turkish?
that's what the Turkish cadets said.
Wow.
Yep. Apparently, you said Baris Osnur, he's the biggest fan. You've got hundreds of guys listening, and you are the favorite. The reason I cut that short was because I didn't want to say that.
Oh, but you got
were
that
their
in. That's
favorite. Well, only because you insisted. I'm sure you're their favorite, really.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
they didn't send it to me. They sent it to you. Well, hey, a big shout out to all of you guys and the Turkish cadets and all of you. Thank you so much for listening to the show. And here's a round of applause for you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. And thanks, Johan. Good luck with your command training, mate. Love you.
Yes, good luck. Let us know how that goes. All right. Would it be time for the coffee fund?
I think
last.
so. We've
Sure.
finally arrived.
Yes.
An hour.
Yes.
Whee!
I know. Sorry, everybody.
Oops. Standard.
Yeah. Not quite. It's a little bit longer
Not
than
quite.
normal.
It's a lot longer than normal. That's all my fault, too.
Blame
Just
Dana.
blame Jeff.
That's what she said.
Johnny, how much more coffee? No thanks.
Wish you a Merry Christmas. Wish you a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. The Coffee Fund is your way to support the show financially if you have the financial resources to do so. And since the last episode, we have, using the Classic Fund method, Terry Liu and Chris Randall. And the other way to do it is to become a patron of the show via patreon.com. And we have a new producer, Vitor Parito. Hope I pronounced your name right. And if you want to find out how you can become part of the Coffee Fund cadre, please head over to the awesome site Arash manages, and it's the airlinepilotguy.com website. airlinepilotguy.com/coffee is the way you find out more about the Coffee Fund. Thank you very much for all of your great contributions, and we hope to have some more people join us. And now, time for the news.
Stand by for news.
Did you see this? This just happened, I think, last night and ongoing today at the second busiest airport in England, Gatwick. Apparently, I'm not sure if I understand exactly what's happening over there or if anybody really does. Some drones have been causing havoc. I guess I need to play the drone sound, don't I? Here it is. Yes, they sound just like this. Oh, this is the wrong one. Doesn't have the...
I just need to ask my house cleaners to start vacuuming in the hallway right now. It would sound exactly like a drone.
Take your
That's
microphone
what's
out
going
there.
on right outside my door right now.
Yeah, so
They
we'll
heard
just
Jeff
pretend
start
that's
talking
drone.
about it.
Pardon?
They heard you starting to talk about it. That's why they cranked it up.
Yeah. So, what's happening over there, Captain Nick? I know you're not right next door to Gatwick, but you're close by. Can you tell us about what's happening over there?
Well, we've been getting reports on the news
Wait,
all
listen,
day.
can you hear it?
Oh, they've flown over there.
Oh no, Steph, watch out.
It's the drones. They've come for me. All right, carry on, Nick. Sorry.
So it happened a couple of days ago, and they pitched up in the evening on Wednesday. It was so actually it was only yesterday, and 2 drones were sighted near the airfield. And of course, with the danger that drones present to aircraft, they had to stop any activity on the airfield. So effectively, they shut it. Now the 2 drones hung around over the airfield. And they flew away, but then came back again and repeated that during the last sort of 24 to 36 hours. The police have been trying to find the drone operators. There have been a number of drones over the airfield. The airfield has intermittently closed, tried to open, but the drones have reappeared, so they've closed again. In the meantime, of course, every time the drones go over, because this appears to be a coordinated and malicious activity, of course, they have to sweep the airfield when these drones have been overhead in case they've dropped something that might prove to be dangerous to aircraft. So the police and the military here are taking it very seriously. It may possibly be, excuse me, possibly terrorist associated, but no one said that. But that's what everyone, I think, is thinking. But I suspect personally it's one of the organizations that is trying to disrupt activity at the airfield as a protest, but we haven't found out. No one seemed to have claimed responsibility for these actions, either that or some idiots. So they've been persisting over the airfield and effectively closed. There've been a lot of diversions, very few movements out of the airfield. So aircraft have been going all over the country, and of course it's an incredibly busy time of the year. So an awful lot of flights have been affected. And in the meantime, everyone's running why they can't just shoot these damn things down. So because they've got armed police and the army are present. So that everyone's going, well, what countermeasures can you use against these things? Well, to be truthful, you can't just fire guns at them, because every bullet that misses is going to go up and come back down somewhere, and there's always the possibility, no matter how remote, that it might hit somebody, and you don't want that to happen, obviously. So I don't know, what do you do when someone maliciously and deliberately flies a drone over an airfield with the idea of shutting down the airfield and disrupting activity?
What do you think? Do you think, just your feeling, is this really just some folks that are just playing around and just trying to cause havoc? I was thinking, aren't they having some kind of? Well, no, that's Heathrow that's going to make the third runway. I was wondering.
Yeah,
if it was
but
like one of those
Gatwick are trying to expand as well, and there are a fair number of people who are complaining about just general air activity, the numbers of flights, and they want to cut down on our contribution towards greenhouse gases, etc. So there are organizations out there that just want to limit or stop flying.
I mean, if it's not that group, they're probably looking at all this going, "Ooh, wow, we should have thought of this."
Exactly. That's a very good point, because now it's started and people realize how effective it is. Because, of course, just in case these drones are armed in some sort, perhaps with explosive or, you could just got to use your imagination as to what dangers they might present if they're being maliciously flown. Then, if one were to hit an aircraft, it could be really dangerous. There are laws specifically to prevent people from flying close to an airfield, and the maximum penalty is 5 years in jail. But already the Prime Minister has stood up and said that they're going to re-examine those penalties, possibly obviously to consider increasing them. In the meantime, of course, you wonder how you're going to stop them. Now, I know there are a number of devices out there, which I seem to remember that the Dutch had some birds of prey that could bring down a drone. The Japanese had anti-drone drones. So drones, you fly onto drones, and there are devices you can fire from the ground which deploy nets to entangle. And
I've even seen like a torch, like a flamethrower thing that they use.
Yeah, that's right.
Off of power lines.
Absolutely. It depends, of course, how high they fly them, and of course, you can use a radio technology. You can jam the signals and possibly even cook the electronics in them if you have a strong enough RF signal or other type of radio device you could fire at them. But the airport needed to have had these in place beforehand, really, because now we've had 2 or 3 days of disruption, or will have by the time it's all over.
And I'm amazed at the number of passengers that have been affected by this. This is just causing havoc.
Even though it's only got effectively one active runway, it's an incredibly busy airport, Gatwick. So yeah, I know it's a huge number, and of course, as soon as people stop moving, then the airport, and it comes to a standstill, the airport just fills up with people, and it fills up very quickly. So it's been an absolute nightmare for the traveling public.
Wasn't it Gatwick that had the people who chained themselves on a runway a couple of years ago?
Yeah, Gatwick and Heathrow. The general tactic at Heathrow was to block the tunnels that lead into the terminals, because the only access really for passengers to get to the terminals is to go through one of the 2 tunnels under one of the runways. And they simultaneously managed to block all the tunnels by just putting vehicles, and they chained themselves to the vehicles so you couldn't move the vehicles. So there've been a number of things, but yes, and also in London City, protesters have gained access to the actual airfield and positioned themselves on the runways. So there are a number of tactics. Now, if this is those people, those previous tactics haven't had a very severe penalty, but this one is pretty severe. So I'm just wondering if the police find them, what they're going to do. Now, they've been trying to track them, and they've shown on the news some of the devices they use, using sort of RFDF equipment. Now, whether that works or not, they can actually find them, but they've got a lot of police units out now looking, and but I suspect, having done the damage, they will probably disappear. But it is, a worry. These things are a danger, and these people are going to be hard to find.
And just to be clear, we're recording on Thursday, the 20th of December, and you said the airport is still shut down, correct?
Well, when I left the sitting room to come and just watch the news, to come and do the program, yes, it was. Although they were saying it might open within the next half hour, but whether it's actually opened or not, I don't know. Perhaps the chat room can give us the latest.
So why are they so concerned about these drones flying around airports? I mean, they can't really do much damage to an airplane, can they?
Well, we know that they can penetrate the skin of an aircraft, and we know that there's recently been an incident where a suspected drone impact has gone straight through the radome of an aircraft. That's not.
Do we really, though? Come on.
Yeah. Do we know that's a drone? No, we don't. But it's suspected, and we know that trials have been done where they fired drones at sort of reasonable speeds at aircraft. windshields and to measure how much they penetrate. But that's not the point. If it's someone flying a drone who's like a kid and he's got a lightweight drone, then you think to yourself, well, it wouldn't do too much damage. But of course, if this is being done maliciously, it's what people might put on the drones. That if this is terrorist related or someone who's trying to create a big impact, they might have actually put something on the drone. So if it did strike an aircraft, there might be explosive attached, or might be some other way of creating a bigger impact.
If it impacts the wrong part of the aircraft, think about the difference in closing speeds there. And the amount of damage that could cause, say, to an engine, perhaps, if it was ingested in an engine.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want one down one of my engines, and a good chance it would damage or destroy the engine. So, it is a significant risk.
Do you hear? I hear another drone.
Really?
You do.
Yeah.
I think it's
What's going
just
on?
Steph's cleaners.
Oh, it could be.
They just stopped. They'll probably start again. Which
So-
would be good ambiance for this next story, I think.
Yes.
So we'll just launch into that because a
Throwing
ways
it to
away
Steph.
from Gatwick in Tijuana, Mexico. This was a story from December 14th, so just a few days ago. A 737 passenger jet purportedly slams into drone during landing. So a Boeing 737 passenger jet reportedly struck a drone while landing in Tijuana, Mexico, causing a considerable amount of damage, specifically to the nose. So Nick was talking about damage to the radome, and there are some pictures here in this article of a 737 with a significant amount of damage to the nose/radome of the aircraft. Social media reports of the incident, which, by the way, were confirmed by the airline Grupo Aeromexico, say that Flight 773 from Guadalajara was approaching the airport when the crew heard, quote, a very strong blow, end quote, to the aircraft. Local reports are stating that it was a drone that caused the impact. The pilots requested assistance from air traffic control and were able to land safely without injuries. The exact cause is still being investigated, Aeromexico says in a statement. The aircraft landed normally and the passenger's safety was never compromised. However, photos that have emerged show a significantly large dent punched into the front of the airplane. There's some tweets in Spanish, which I will not read. However, they go on to talk about incidents involving airliners and drones becoming more and more common and frequent as years have gone by. So there you have it.
So that certainly does look like. I mean, we've seen bird strikes and hail strikes hitting radomes and doing a lot of damage, but the damage on these photos definitely looks like something more.
That's a lot of damage to a 7.3 nose.
Yeah,
and it doesn't look. I mean, it's certainly not. We've all seen hail damage. We've all seen bird strike damage. This does not appear to be any of those things. This
no,
looks
hail
a little
damage.
bit more
You'd
blunt.
probably see more damage with hail, just
sure.
Widespread, not just the one big impact like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what concerns me is, I mean, did any of that stuff go down the left side of the airplane towards the engine?
It certainly looks like it went that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd be easy to tell if it was a drone. They're bound to be a bit left inside the radome, surely.
Yeah.
I've been looking and I haven't seen any articles. They say it's a drone, but that's still everything kind of says it's speculation. I haven't seen anything that definitively says it was yet.
Well, I remember we did do a story not that long ago, Jeff, where a radome collapsed in flight, and everyone thought it might have been a drone, but it turned out to be just a failure of the structure of the radome that caused it to collapse.
No,
this looks much more mechanical. Well, could be, but it does look a little bit more like the edges are more rough. Looks a little bit more mechanical in nature, I would say, in terms of the damage.
It looks drone shaped to me.
It's just going to come right out and say it.
If you get close enough, you can actually hear this.
Yeah, it's still there inside, beating itself to death.
Yes. Anyway, well, let's stay with the same theme here. Not all drone stories are bad. Why don't we do this next story that is actually good news involving drones? Dana?
Yep, here we go. Oh, my computer overloaded. Sorry. Anyways, a baby on a small Pacific Island has become the first person to give a vaccine delivered by a commercial drone. UNICEF arranged for the drone to be flown some 40 kilometers, or about 25 miles, across rugged mountains in Vanuatu that otherwise take hours to cross. About 20% of children in Vanuatu, am I saying that right?
Vanuatu.
I'm sorry, and I apologize for the Vanuatu people, don't receive important vaccinations because the supply is too difficult. The UN Children Organization hopes that drone delivery will, in the future, be of vital importance in the remote areas. Today's small flight by a drone is a big leap for global health. UNICEF Executive Director Henrietta Foray said, with the world still struggling to immunize the hardest to reach children, drone technologies can be a game changer for bridging that last mile to reach every child.
Yeah, so this is a great instance of drones, being used in a very good way. We've seen lifeguards and
Or AEDs. They've talked about delivering AEDs to, locations where someone's having a heart attack or cardiac arrest. I think all of the healthcare stuff is a very positive use of drones, provided that it's done in a professional way and with some regulations in place to make sure that it's safe. The operation is safe and not interfering with other commercial traffic.
Yeah, so we're not anti-drone here, just to be clear. Yeah. We just, if you're going to use a drone, make sure you know all the rules. Don't fly them near airports like Gatwick. Anyway.
Yeah, I have 2 drones, but I don't fly them.
And you're a
around Gatwick.
responsible drone owner.
Yeah, I was having some fun flying them. Oh, hang on a minute. Where? Oh, okay. Perhaps I better not say anymore.
Yeah. Do you know where your drones are?
Hang on, is somebody just knocking on the door? Hang on a minute.
It's the distinctive knock of the police. No.
The battering bang, 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 bang.
It was once described to me as the distinctive knock of the police.
Anderson, you home?
We knew Nick before he was serving his prison sentence.
That's right. No, I have a couple of small drones, and I don't think even if I wanted to, I could manage to fly them that high because I would crash them before it ever happened. I fly them in the house and crash them into the walls here.
No wonder you have the cleaners there.
Good safe fun.
Okay.
I'm not a good drone pilot, for those who are wondering.
We have somebody here that's sort of an expert on the Hawker Hunter. Do we not? Haven't you flown that, Nick?
Yeah, I've got a few hours on the Hunter. Yeah, lovely airplane.
Item B, a private Red Air adversary simulator aircraft crashes within sight of shore. An ATAC, what does that stand for? Again, I had it here. Airborne Tactical Advantage Company, a private contract adversary Hawker Hunter crashed off the coast of Honolulu, Hawaii, shortly after takeoff from Honolulu Airport, close to Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, at around 2:25 local time on Wednesday. Photos posted on Twitter showed the pilot ejecting from the aircraft just offshore. According to local news media, or a local news media outlet, Hawaii News Now, the pilot was a 47-year-old civilian contractor flying for ATAC. Some reports described the pilot of the aircraft as a Hawaii Air National Guard civilian contractor. And then later in the story, they talk about this 47-year-old pilot, civilian contractor who flew in the Navy. He flew the F-18 and let's see what else. I'm trying to find that part of the story, but I can't. Let's see. I think I found it. This is the second article where they kind of have him in the hospital reuniting with the gentleman that helped save him. Apparently, when he ejected from the plane and hit the water at a pretty high rate of speed, even though he did have a parachute, apparently there wasn't a lot of time to slow his momentum down before he hit the water, and he ended up crushing his vertebrae and having a spinal fracture. His name is Potier. I think is the way you pronounce his last name, Matt Potier. And he said that he was so happy that this other guy, this gentleman who was out there, was a parasailer, saw him go down and swam over to rescue him before he drowned because his back was injured. And this gentleman's name is, trying to find it. Sorry,
Mac Ladner.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I should
The
I should-
parasailer?
Yeah, the parasailer. Sailor, yeah. So there's a nice picture of the two of them in the hospital room with pilot Matt Potier and the parasailer Mac Ladner together. And so, it was sad that it doesn't really talk about why the Hawker ended up crashing. It was a Mark 58 Hawker Hunter single engine tactical fighter. And I was kind of surprised that they still had an active ejection seat, because don't a lot of those ejection seat equipped airplanes, when they're put into civilian use, they end up a lot of times deactivating the ejection seat?
I think it depends on the regulatory authority, but personally, I think on an aircraft like that, you'd have to keep it active, because it's there's no real and simple way to manually bail out, and you'd have to completely redesign the cockpit, because the thing you sit on is an ejector seat. So, and I guess you could take the gun out, but no one would be very happy about flying an airplane without an ejector seat, even if it's a Hunter. The Mark 58 is an Air Force Mark 6, so it's the equivalent, and I flew the Mark 6 quite a few times. And the Mark 58 was sold to foreign air forces, for example, the Swiss. They flew them for quite a while. So I have a feeling it might be ex-Swiss. So it's a lovely sort of heritage aircraft, fabulous looking machine, great fun to fly. But it's an old machine, so they're not perfect. You got one engine. So if you've got an engine problem, there's little you can do other than step over the side. So, and I'm not surprised he had crushed vertebrae. That's an incredibly common injury following an ejection, particularly on these earlier seats, where the only way of powering the seat out of the aircraft was by the telescopic gun that fires, and it's about 20 G's that it'll subject your back to. So compression fractures of your back are it's very rare not to have them.
Well, I would say, even if it didn't happen there, if he landed in the water, hitting the water from a height can do it too.
Yeah, that's I didn't even think that the ejection seat itself was the culprit in his.
Oh, that usually
That
is.
that might make more sense, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's often the same. And of course, there are a number of pilots in the past who have successfully ejected, arrived in the water, and then drowned under their parachutes. It's common to get trapped under your parachute. The technique you're taught is to find one of the lines which leads from the center of the parachute. That's in just mimicking what you do now. So you find a line, you just pull it over your head until you get to the edge of the parachute. And then you're in free air. But even then, your efforts to stay afloat can be easily stymied by the fact that all the rigging lines get caught in your legs. And unless you've got your life vest inflated, and all ours in the later years, when I was in the Air Force, were self-inflating. So unless you had one of those, he would be in dire straits. It would be very difficult. So very nice that this bloke was there to help him.
Yeah, especially if you're injured. I know skydiving training for licenses here in the U.S. beyond just the basic license involve water training, so you know how to get out from underneath the canopy in the water. But it's a whole different story if you're injured on top of being in the water with a canopy over your head. So it's good that they have some of those
The handsome Captain Jeff there. Did you go through water survival training?
Oh, yeah. Down at
I was going to say, both Jeff and I have the experience of learning how to, when Nick was describing, getting underneath the
following line.
And Nick, I think you probably had these when you were still on active duty. Well, you said your life preservers were water activated, so were ours, but actually the disconnects on your shoulders were actually water activated too. They were seawars, as it was called.
The Koch fasteners?
Yeah, the Coke fasteners would disconnect automatically after a few
No,
seconds in water.
we never had those. In fact, our Air Force was so suspicious of those fasteners, we actually had safety pins in them to prevent them from being easily opened. So not only did you, when you hit the water, to get free of your parachute, not only do you have to lift and separate the cock fasteners, you had to first pull out these little pit pins, and then you could release them.
You're kidding.
No,
Half an hour
absolutely.
later, you're out.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
we once
I hope
had
you
an
can hold your breath
incident.
for a long period of time.
Yeah, we once had an incident where a fastener was suspected of accidentally coming free, and or having received a blow during ejection. And after that, they said, no, these things are too dangerous. We can't get rid of them, but you're going to have extra safety devices fitted to them. So for us, it was a bit of a nightmare. In the parachute descent, we would have to find these two pit pins, pull them out, and then when we hit the water, we'd lift up the little guards and then pull them to free them as we basically our feet hit the water. That was
because I flew in torrential downpours walking out to the airplane in Singapore and in the Philippines and even in Okinawa, and we never had an issue with that. It took a lot of water to get those things to disengage.
Well, we never had those water-activated things fitted, so ours was a purely mechanical failure of the
we were taught to
fastener
try to
itself.
beat them. I mean, and as far as the ejection seat, these civilian companies are flying these older jet fighters. They have everything from Kafirs to F4s to A4s, F5s, and I didn't know they had the Hunters. They're all authorized to have the active ejection seats because it's really, like Nick was saying, it's the only really safe way to fly the airplane because there's no other way to get out. I mean, it was a big deal in the F-15 if the ejection seat did not fire and how to get out of the airplane because the parachute is physically part of the seat. You don't wear it.
Oh.
You connect to it. It's in the seat.
But you land in the water with the seat and everything. Still
You can't. No, there's only one airplane that can land in the seat. And that was the OV-10. You could actually land with a full parachute still sitting in the seat.
Okay. But most of them, not the case.
No, you have to have seat separation to get the chute.
Gotcha.
Well, hey, this guy was no slacker. As I mentioned, he was a retired U.S. Navy F-18 pilot. I finally found the paragraph. He has more than 4,200 hours in tactical aircraft and more than 100 combat missions. So obviously, this guy knows a thing or two about flying high-performance fighter aircraft. So hope that he heals and he'll be able to fly again with that injury. Would you say that would be a possibility? Steph?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
they are common.
There was an F4 backseater who actually ejected twice.
Oh man!
And the second time he ejected over the Gulf of Mexico, and when he got out of the helicopter, he was doing jumping jacks because the first time he ejected, it hurt his back, and he always had back problems after that. And after the second ejection, it fixed his back.
A little chiropractic maneuver there,
I love it.
Before the first ejection, he was 6 feet tall, and now after two, he's only 5 feet
5'6".
tall. Yeah, 5'6".
Yeah, actually, that's very true, Jeff. You lose about 1.5 inches in an ejection because of the compression of the spine.
Wow. Okay. Well, anything else to say regarding that?
No, shame to lose another Hunter, though. They're great airplanes.
Yeah. That is a shame. Speaking of a shame, item C, is it Taban or Taban? Taban Air, Iranian airline, flying the good old McDonnell Douglas MD-88. I was kind of surprised. I thought that Acme was the only one that flies the 88, but apparently not. Registration Echo Papa Tango Bravo Charlie, performing flight 6225 from Mashhad to Karaj in Iran with 150 passengers and 7 crew, was being vectored for an approach to Karaj's runway 30. Tehran Mehrabad approach had provided vectors to the intermediate fix when the crew reported the runway in sight. The danger of visual approaches here.
Not so fast.
Requested a visual approach and were cleared for a visual approach. The crew, however, had identified another private aerodrome, the Fat aerodrome, short of Karaj, and were on approach to their runway 31 left when the crew decided to go around due to being too high for the approach.
I'm sorry, Jeff, what was the name of that airfield?
Fat.
Fat? Really?
I don't know. Wait, Dana, how is that pronounced?
Fat.
Fat.
There's no R in there.
Well, that's why it's actually perfectly, the pronunciation is
Appropriate to put the
perfect.
R in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Foth.
there's no R in Washington either, but I hear people say
Washington.
Washington.
I'm gonna go with Foth.
Foth? Okay. Well, there's no the H is on
It's
the
HT, not
first part of
TH,
it.
Steph.
Wait, where is
It's
it
probably
spelled
Fahat.
differently?
Well, I'm looking
In
at
different
FAHT. Are you seeing it in another place where it says?
Oh, I saw
that?
FATH.
Yeah,
They
I've
probably
seen
pronounce it
FATH
Fahat.
later on.
Okay. Well, I guess they're hedging their bets here. The people, they're not really sure. Okay. Well, whatever. The aerodrome that begins with F, which is not the correct aerodrome, and as I said in the thing here, they decided to go around because they were a little bit too high, and then they went back and tried it again. To the same wrong airport when they realized that we're at the wrong aerodrome and initiated a go around from a very low height. And they put in parentheses here, lowest point about 1 meter above the ground. So
That's 3 feet. For those
yeah,
of
this
you
is very
in
low, 39
Imperial
inches.
Land. Yeah.
Yeah, the aircraft climbed out position for a correct approach and finally landed on Karage's runway 30. And again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly either, but anybody from Iran listening, let us know. Anyway, Iran's CAO have opened an investigation into the occurrence rated a serious incident. And the Karaj Airport, also known as Payam International, is located about 23.8 nautical miles west of Tehran and about 5.5 miles, or the wrong airport that they were looking at is 5.5 nautical miles short of Karaj's runway 30.
Wow, no wonder they got a bit high on the approach.
Yeah. Not only that, but look how long is the runway? So the one they were trying to land on, that was
supposed to land on?
Yeah, supposed to land on 12,000 feet.
Mhm.
And Foth, that runway is how long, Steph?
3,300 feet, 1,000 meters.
That's short.
A little bit different. A little bit different.
Even if you're on a 3-degree glide path, it probably still looked like you were high.
3,300 feet is short for some folks.
Not for you,
that's-
maybe, but
That's normal for general aviation.
yeah, not for
But not for anything else.
Yeah.
About the only corporate airplane I could think of that would actually be a satisfactory runway would be a Citation.
Yeah. Like at one of the earlier the straight wing.
Yeah, straight wing and then straight wing Citations. That would actually be just fine.
Yeah. Huh.
That's about it, though.
Let's see. And I believe the last item in the news folder would be E, or that's at least what I'm looking at. The incident, Belavia 737-500 at Kiev on December 9th, 2018, damaged runway lights and, I can't read the whole title here, and right engine cowl on landing. This is from the Aviation Herald. A Belavia Boeing 737-500, registration Echo Whiskey 290 Papa Alpha, performing flight 845 from Minsk in Belarus to Kiev, Ukraine, landed on Kiev's runway 18 left at 18:08 local time and taxied to the apron. A post-flight inspection showed a dent in the right engine inlet, substantial damage to, as well as grass embedded in the right-hand engine cowl. Jeff, have you ever done a post-flight walk around and seen this kind of damage on your right
No.
engine? Thank
Hang
goodness.
on.
The
Jeff, you
737
fly.
engine is a little lower to the ground.
You fly 737s. It must happen all the time. I mean,
No,
But it shouldn't be in the grass.
it shouldn't be in the grass.
oh, and by the way, can I just bring us back up to 50%? It's Belarus.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
What did I say?
I don't know. Not
I don't know.
Belarus.
Something with an
Belarus.
arse in
Belarus.
it.
Okay.
Well, we've invented a new. It's called the 737.
Shut up. Okay, thank you. So anyway, the aircraft was unable to depart for the return flight.
What a surprise.
Had an
Yeah.
engine full of grass.
And a runway light apparently as well.
Well, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the one picture looks like there's snow in it, in the damage to the underside of the cowling.
Well, it's Belarus.
Yeah, so
I imagine it's kind of snowy there. Yeah.
It's
So-
I mean, he must. He had to hit off the runway.
I think they were just a little bit
through
to
the
the
grass
right.
to get the engine pod that low.
Yeah.
They were like 2 feet off the ground.
I think you had to work really hard to do that, don't you, Jeff? I mean,
I think he was a little bit right of center line, maybe a
bit.
little bit too much crosswind correction. I don't know.
Yeah.
Best I can think of.
Those runways are slippery.
Yeah,
1-8
definitely.
left. The winds were what? I'm trying to read this.
I'm trying to scroll down here. It looks like, where is it for the one?
Fog. Oh, it was
4 meters per second.
it was bad visibility. They had they were doing RVRs, I think, 550 and 400. Would that be meters? I guess.
Yeah.
FG fog.
That's Cat
Yeah.
1, 450
Yeah.
meters.
550 normally.
Oh, okay.
Well, 550 on the second one. There were 400 on the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And vertical visibility, so they can't measure the
200.
cloud base, but they're only seeing 200 feet vertically.
Yep.
Not a nice day.
So 3 or 4 meters per second equates to how many in knots? That's completely
Yeah, that's foreign to
Foreign
me.
to
That's
me.
math in public.
You
I don't do
double
that.
it.
double it.
So,
Okay.
I
So
So it's
think
not a lot of wind.
it's double it or
8
halve it.
knots.
I can never remember.
It's either 8 knots or 2 knots. Either way, it's not very
Yeah.
much.
But it's
Okay.
pretty much right down the runway. 20 degrees off. I think
Yeah.
so. That's it wasn't a big crosswind. So
I mean, even if it's an 8 knot, it's only 4 knots of crosswind.
yeah. So
Just
who knows what
misjudged the term.
Yeah.
That's it.
lined up on the. Oh, you know what? We had one at Acme landing in. Was it Columbus? I think or Dayton. I always get the two confused. Sorry.
Somewhere in Ohio.
Somewhere in Ohio, mid Ohio.
Oh, somebody's offended.
I know. I'm sorry.
You offended one listener.
I know for sure. Sorry, Jen. But they came in and it was a low visibility approach, and this runway didn't have center line lights, and they were thinking that they were lining up on the center line lights, but they were lining up on the right edge lights of the runway, and so perhaps that was a situation that occurred here. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's a possibility.
I said the airplane pulled up to the gate with all kinds of grass and mud and everything else, and they in the right main landing gear. It was kind of a mess.
Oh, and just in case anyone really wants to know, you double meters per second to get knots.
There you
Okay,
go.
so 8.
Still, yeah, not a lot.
No.
8 knots.
Yeah,
Well, you got to be careful.
I reckon they ran into a few of those orange, obstruction markers, because they nearly hit that one that's in front of the engine, didn't they?
Yeah,
That orange cone.
Yeah, those cones.
No chance
That's
it was
what-
placed there after they stopped.
No chance at
no.
all.
I don't know. I can imagine that if you took out a runway light or something and it was slushy, wet ground, you could knock some of that grass up into the engine as well.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Because the thing is, I would have to go back and look at the numbers, but I'm pretty sure to hit that engine, the bottom of the engine like that on the
pod.
ground,
Yeah.
he'd have hit the wingtip first.
Oh,
If he
really?
was in that much bank.
I think you're all missing
No,
the fact
but
that
if
the
they
guy
were-
probably just cut the turn wrong.
What if they were just lined up way
Yeah, I
too
think
far
they're
to
just
the
lined
right?
up. I don't think they had a lot of bank. I think they just
Yeah.
were not.
Well, we had an airplane down in the Caribbean. He's on the yellow line, taxiing clear of the runway. This was in an A300, and next thing you know, he's up to the axles in the mud, on the yellow line for the corner. So it could have been, like Steph said, it could have just been taxiing in, and he took the corner too close.
That's exactly what I think this is that it was just he
Just
ran
cut
it
the
off,
corner.
cut the corner and ran it off into the mud, and he got a taxiway, light, because
Oh.
the damage on this would indicate only probably one, maybe
mean,
two at the
it's-
most.
Yeah, it's not. Well, I don't know. Look at the bottom of that engine nacelle there, but
Oh, that's because it probably scraped on the
scraped along
the concrete. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, who knows?
They don't mention anything about the gear being all covered in mud. 'Cause
Yeah.
it would
No.
have had to have sunk in the mud, or if it's on the unhardened portion of the pavement, he could have sunk through the pavement, but he'd still have like debris on the truck for the wheels.
yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, to me, it almost looks like, and I could be completely wrong here, they just took out lighting on the side and at the same time kicked up a bunch of, if it was raining, and it looks like it's, wet surface, there was clearly some snow in the vicinity, kick up some of that grass and dirt and mud at the same time.
Could be.
Well, I know several years ago in Boston, about 5 years ago now in Boston, it was the snow drifts were so big where they plowed the taxiways that if you didn't square the corners, you were dragging a pod through the snow. If you even thought about taking a corner even close to being not square, it was that deep. So,
All I know on my airplane, I don't have to worry about that.
Nope. The engines are way up there.
Yeah, if you're dragging the engines through the mud and hitting taxiway lights with the engine, you get some major problems.
You're probably inverted.
Yeah. Turn the aircraft.
I wonder
roll
if this
it 180 degrees.
Since Belarus does get so much snow, I wonder if their side lights on the taxiways are elevated.
Could be.
They might be.
Yeah.
Like when you go through, I don't know, anyone who's had the pleasure of driving through mountain passes, you get some of those stakes on the side of the road just to show you where the edge of the road markers are.
And they're buried.
And they're also buried, yes.
That's what we always say, that it's a bad sign when you fly into airports that we fly into, at least domestically here, where they have those like little sticks sticking way up, because you know that they probably get a lot of snow and they have to know where the edge of the runway is and where the lights are. Yeah, not a good thing.
Not anywhere I want to travel, really.
No. Unless you're going to go snow skiing.
For skiing, yes. Any other reason?
Or conferences. Okay. I think it's now time for us to head on over to that feedback folder that we have. Let's do this.
Captain, incoming message.
All right. Let's start with, believe it or not, number one. John sent us some feedback, and he said some comic relief from YouTube. And I'm thinking, what? This must be some kind of a comedy routine. So he sent us a YouTube link, and
It's hysterical.
It's hysterical, but it's presented as a serious thing, and I think we're going to talk about this. I think the person that actually came up with the thing did not do this as a spoof.
No, I don't think so either.
As far as I can tell. So I'll just play a little bit of it. Don't worry, I'm not going to play the whole thing. In fact, I don't have permission to play this, from YouTube. So I'm just going to play a little excerpt. And now we're going to wait for YouTube to load on my iPad.
There's an ad.
I hope not, because I have premium and I don't have to look at ads. Nice sound effect. A Space Busters production 2018. Used without permission.
Greetings, fellow air travelers. This video is for everyone who has ever bought an airline ticket. I'm going to make this video as short as possible, but the large amount of information included will inevitably dictate the length, so please bear with me. Hopefully at the end of this video I will have convinced you that there is a deception going on right in front of your eyes. This affects every person that has ever traveled on a modern-day airliner. If you're not convinced, then I hope that this information will have planted a little seed of thought that you can use later on when something else related comes to light.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because I just don't want to get in trouble from YouTube. And this thing that he wants to plant, this little seed he wants to plant in your mind, is the fact that jet engines airlines are claiming that 50% of the price of the ticket is due to the cost of aviation fuel, and this video tries to prove that there is absolutely no way that these airplanes could possibly hold what we say that it can hold in fuel volume and weight. And they go on to show fuel trucks, like 16 fuel trucks mounted on each wing of a 380 Airbus A380.
No wonder there's no room for fuel, actually, because of all the elephants on the wing.
And the elephants, yes. How many? Like 16 on each side?
Yeah, how are you going to get any fuel in with all those elephants?
It's so stupid. And
does this person know anything about geometry?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
Apparently not.
I mean, I'm not good at geometry either, but I think I could reason my way through it.
But apparently he doesn't understand the fact that not every bit of fuel on the Airbus A380 is carried in the wings. They also have fuselage tanks.
Yeah, other
tail
tanks.
Yeah, well, we all know that this whole thing's the bottom line is the video tries to prove that really we don't need fuel at all. It's all air. That's how these engines
That's how
are running.
airplanes fly, just air.
Yeah, just air.
Magic air.
Yeah.
Well, they do blow quite a bit of air, but he's full of hot air, apparently.
Yes, he is. Yeah. So John says it's funny because it's so bad. Yeah,
We
it
agree,
is.
John.
Yeah.
So
it's worth a watch, though. But
yeah,
please,
really.
It's like 13 something minutes long, 13,
Yeah.
14 minutes long.
And
Take a
I'm
look.
sure he'd appreciate some email
Feedback.
too.
Commentary.
to
YouTube
comment
videos.
on his
Explains how the
review.
compressor actually gets to turn in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I'm sure
if John was to actually drive his vehicle, is that run by air as well?
Only
course,
if it's
Dana.
Of course. I mean, I'm just using his logic
Yeah.
in
Well,
reverse.
You just need to see his
well, not John's logic.
I mean,
You-
I'm sorry. I'm just looking at John's
Yeah.
feedback. I don't know who this guy is. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's
John,
probably
I
some
apologize, John.
group of people that probably put that together. It's a pretty professionally done thing. So, and you know what? Honestly, some of these people may truly believe that this is what's happening and it's a hoax and
The world's flat too. So
Chemtrails.
yeah,
Chemtrails.
Pretty
exactly.
sure these are the same people who
Yes.
big
Right.
proponents of chemtrails.
Anyway, check it out. It'll be in the show notes if you want to see this. Just good luck with it. Let's see. I think we have time to do another piece of feedback before we get to our episode or installment of the Plain Tales. The second one, Mike writes, "Greetings, crew. I hope all is well and you are all ready for the holidays."
Ha! Sorry.
I'm perfectly ready. I'm working. Perfect.
Excuse me. This Steph got a good laugh out of that one. This question may be more in Dana's wheelhouse since he is the expert CFI on the show. Well, he's a CFI. I'm not sure about the expert.
Well, actually, my renewal just completed. I would assume that I'm more in tune.
The information is freshest in your mind.
It is.
Well, we look forward to
I don't
hearing
remember
your.
Okay, continue.
We look forward to your analysis. I would like all of your opinions on this. When do you stop using the localizer and glide? So this is Mike Cochran, our friend and fellow, a longtime APG community member, and who gave us those wonderful APG Yeti. I guess what would you call
These?
those? Yeah,
those
Yay!
that I
Very
use the
nice.
living crap out of.
I love my Yeti. Thank you.
They are
Thank
very
you.
cool mugs.
Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he says, when do you stop using the localizer and glide slope when flying a precision approach? I fly with a few captains who have different techniques, and I have to remember to be a chameleon and apply their way of doing things when flying with them. Okay, so he says, Captain number 1. When the pilot monitoring calls the runway in sight, pilot flying looks up, calls the runway in sight, and lands. And further, it says insight and landing. Oh, maybe you
I think
say
it's 2 words: insight, runway insight.
runway
Insight, landing.
That's my intent. Okay,
That's the call. Yeah.
gotcha. Further, you can use you now can use the PAPI, the Precision Approach Path Indicator. Is that right?
Correct.
I think that's right.
Ding.
Thank you. I don't have it. As
51%
guidance
now.
for the glide path, or if there is no glide path indicator visible, just hold the runway aiming point on the appropriate spot on the windscreen and land the aircraft. Captain number 2. When the pilot monitoring calls the runway in sight, the pilot flying must use the localizer and glide slope indicators until landing is assured, and then will use any outside references to land the aircraft. Note, the pilot will have to glance inside and outside in order to maintain the localizer and glide slope and to determine the point when landing is assured. Or maybe use the radio altimeter and just stay inside to determine when landing is assured? Question mark? I don't know. I asked him the definition of landing is assured. He stated that it was when a landing can be made on the runway with no engines running, So basically within gliding distance. He said this is the only acceptable technique an examiner on a check ride would accept. I'm questioning this as I'm not able to find an official definition of landing as assured. Do you all know of one? Yeah. Okay. Let me
Number
read
two
that.
wrong.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's.
Shall we carry on and read the
Yeah. Let me
remainder
finish
of
this
the
whole thing because I think it's
and
kind
then
of
we'll
maybe
launch into this because I think we all have opinions on this, and we'll start with Dana.
Yeah. Okay. I'm still very new to this fixed wing business. You'll remember that Mike was a helicopter or is a helicopter pilot as well. On a Cat 1 ILS at 200 feet radio altitude, 200 feet basically above the runway. Do you think your aircraft would be able to glide to the runway with both engines suddenly becoming in-op? I'm thinking it would come up short. I'm not trying to think exactly where my point of landing is assured. Dana might know, as he has experience on my aircraft, the Citation, the Citation 550. I prefer Captain Number One's technique. However, if I do this flying with Captain Number Two, he corrects me because the localizer and glide slope may be slightly off, even though the PAPI has 2 white lights and 2 red lights. I'm happy to conform to either technique as I believe they are both safe, but I just have to remember who I'm flying with. That's one of the hardest things about being a co-pilot is being the chameleon that Mike is talking about here. What technique do you all use? Any guidance that you all can provide will be greatly appreciated. Merry Christmas and happy Feast of Seven Fishes, Mike. Okay.
Oh, gotta love the 7 fishes.
Yes. Dana, go ahead.
Hey, Mike, Captain Number Two brings up an important point, and that's if you are flying VFR, right? You are pretty much always want to be in a position to be in a power off landing to the runway. Now, Captain Number Two is really referencing shooting an instrument approach. Well, if I'm shooting an instrument approach right down to minimums and I'm in a single engine airplane, then more than likely I could probably have a landing assured anytime once I get to minimums, 200 foot, minimums. Not that I'd really recommend shooting approach to minimums in a single engine airplane at 200 feet in a single engine airplane. I've done that.
Kind of terrifying.
It is kind of terrifying. I have done it many times. There were many times that I took an airplane up doing that, only to increase my skills to get to the airline level. So really, I really think the Captain Number Two here is probably not applying the turbojet realistic application, which Captain Number One is, and that is that Captain Number One is correct that when the runway is in sight, you basically want to, and what we teach is you want to keep your scan going to transition to the outside environment from the inside environment. Now, what happens in a tendency is that when we start doing that transition, if we focus outside too fast, we will tend to go high on the glide slope and land long on the touchdown zone, and or possibly have to go around because we've lost complete situational awareness. So the best technique is to keep the scan going, and that is inside outside until you actually have the runway environment in sight. And that is, the terminating bars at the end of the runway side lights, and hopefully some approach lights and or centerline lighting. So that's what the difference is here, as far as I can tell, in Captain Number One, Captain Number Two. Captain Number Two being more of a VFR, always keep that runway made. And we're talking about a Citation, and that Citation is still a turbojet aircraft, and on a glide path.
2 engines.
2 engines, even if it's 1 engine, you're going to make that runway no problem. If the engine fails, you're 1,000 feet and coming down the glide path, okay, you change your configuration of the aircraft, you go to the recommended flap setting, and you land the aircraft. So that really doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of beans. And I agree on the fact that you have to be a great chameleon. You have to understand the captain you're flying with. It sounds like you're in a small operation, so these guys or girls, don't take that the wrong way, probably pretty well, and know their idiosyncrasies. Landing assured,
Yeah. Is there an official definition of landing is
I've
assured?
never the only definition I know of, and I don't know that's a definition. It's more. It's
Aircraft
more.
specific. It's power off
In
gliding distance to the runway. So
exactly.
you have to know that for your aircraft.
Exactly where I was going to go with that, Dr. Steph. If you're flying, and the only time I ever remember that is that if I'm flying a single engine
Mhm.
piston airplane, that I want to make sure that if I have an engine failure, that I'm going to keep the airplane within the confines of being able to make the runway in assured landing.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Engine
if
off.
you're doing commercial training in a single engine aircraft, you practice that under VFR conditions, doing power off 180s. So you have an idea of what your power off gliding distance to the runway is. If you lose your engine while you're in the pattern, basically. So a beam the touchdown point. If you lose your engine there, you should know what your power off gliding distance is in a 180 turn back to the runway, basically.
Correct.
But I mean, I don't think I think
your
Mike's right
take
here.
on
I
this?
think, being the chameleon, and I think in both cases the captains are trying to say the same thing, but I agree with Dana. I think captain number 1 is the more correct one here. But I don't think you're going to be wrong with captain number 2 either. You can keep doing your scan, you can keep monitoring what's going on with the glide slope, stay on that path, just transition to the outside environment when it's appropriate.
Yeah. Use all the
Yeah, if you have all those tools at your disposal, use them. It
And-
never hurts to increase your situational awareness.
Right. And it really, as you've both alluded to, it really depends on the meteorological conditions that you're flying under. I mean, if you're flying this category 1 ILS approach and the visibility is like very close to minimums and the ceiling is very close to
You
minimums,
break out like 600 feet or something, fine, use the PAPI. Like there's no problem
because
doing that.
there are things that do create illusions in certain weather conditions when you have ceiling and visibility restrictions. And I have this document that I'll put in the show notes as well that was produced by the Flight Safety Foundation. It's an approach and landing accident reduction toolkit. And it talks, this particular section is a briefing note, visual illusions. And it talks about all these different kinds of visual illusions, whether we're talking about restrictions to visibility, fog, that kind of thing, or if it's an upslope approaching the runway and you're coming in on a normal glide path, then you're going to get this illusion. And same thing if it's the opposite, if it's a downslope coming to the runway, or if the runway itself is sloping up or down, then you have to
Dimensions of the runway.
Exactly. Yeah. Small, narrower runways or shorter runways. We even talked about that, alluded to that earlier on another
Mhm.
piece of news or feedback. So anyway, it's stuff that you have to kind of, know about and try to prevent yourself from, doing the wrong thing. But if you have the PAPI or a VASI, a visual path indicator, use it. And also, if you still have your ILS dialed in, which you should, it doesn't hurt to look back in and do a cross check to make sure that you're not doing something,
I mean, here's my thing. If you're shooting an approach and you're expecting it to be down to minimums, but the co-pilot you're flying with calls runway in sight and the visibility is good, I think you use all the tools you have at your disposal, and that includes looking in front of you.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And the one other thing is with us with Acme, we have training manuals that kind of define how to shoot the approach, right? So I don't know if your company, Mike, has that type of a standard operating procedures in which you can reference as to how they want you to shoot the approach, and it would really kind of put to bed what Captain 1 versus Captain number 2, who, in my opinion, Captain number 2 is probably on the outskirts of wrong. I'm not going to say completely wrong, but it's not common or standard phraseology and or way of doing it in my experience, in whether that be in a small airplane or a turbojet airplane. When I say small airplane, single engine, and also some light twins also. I've never heard that term used. So, if you have a standard operating procedure that the FAA has approved, then maybe, reference that to if you ever want to make sure what you're doing is the proper way that the operating certificate is based on as well.
Can I just suggest
Of
something?
course.
I think when you fly with Captain Number 2, you should just let him see that you have a baseball bat in your flight bag.
Maybe a cricket bat too.
No, that goes
Yeah,
back
that would work. That
Like
would
a
be.
nice,
But
solid
he
piece
may
of
not
wood.
recognize the handle of a cricket bat. But I think a baseball bat would.
Well,
work
that's his problem for
much
never having
better.
seen Spinal Tap.
Do you guys remember my FO briefing?
Yes,
Yes,
of course. That's what.
only too well.
So
I think that's
If
what
you're
Nick
going
is
to kill me, I'll
alluding to.
knock you out. We'll talk about it
I
later.
think Captain Nick's advice is a little unorthodox. Just put a disclaimer out there.
But no, seriously, guys. There was one question I have, and that's for you guys. Why is it so hard flying down the minimums in a single engine airplane as opposed to an multi-engine airplane?
Well, if you lose that engine and you're flying down to minimums, that's where that landing is assured piece becomes a lot more important. I've definitely a couple aircraft come to mind that are just flying bricks. You lose power, even if you're on the appropriate glide path and glide slope.
Yeah, but if you're
You're
in
not gonna make
instrument mate conditions, if you lose the engine at any point, you're in a pretty
You're
dire
in a bind.
situation.
You're in a bind. It's not going to be. I mean, you're going to have to do what you can to make the best of that
But
situation.
there's nothing physically that makes that aircraft harder to fly.
No, it doesn't make it
because-
harder to fly. It's just something more to be aware
Yeah,
of.
that's
You know,
fine.
you
Yeah,
have to
that's-
have in the back of your mind, if I lose an engine here, what is my course of action? What am I going to do? And
You
generally,
eject,
it's
of
continue
course.
flying straight.
Well,
Continue flying straight.
A handsome Captain Jeff knows exactly what I mean.
What do we say, Jeff? Give it back to the taxpayers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
So, Nick, to answer your question more seriously, as a general aviation pilot, you don't fly a whole lot of instrument approaches, especially low approaches. 1,000-foot, 500-foot ceilings are quite
I mean,
common.
I've got pretty
But-
high minimums for what I'm willing to go out in intentionally. The reason you have that is for those situations where it maybe wasn't forecast, wasn't predicted. I never expect to find myself flying to minimums on purpose unless it's in a very specific training environment for the purposes of doing that training, and hopefully with another pilot with me.
So, anyways, what I was continuing
Understood.
to say is that we as general aviation pilots are not used to flying a three-degree glide slope, and it's really more or less hanging on the prop. So that's really what the difference is. Very much like what we do as commercial aviators, we use power all the way down the glide slope, and that's less conventional as a general aviation pilot because when you're flying VFR, you generally tend to keep the aircraft on a little bit higher profile so that way you can keep the airplane able to make the runway. And when you're shooting an instrument approach, you're at a much flatter pitch coming in because you're coming in on an ILS, generally speaking. And when you do, if you lose power, we're not used to hanging on the prop all the way down or hanging on the engine all the way down on a 3-degree glide slope.
That's
In
one thing.
aviation.
I think it depends on the aircraft that you're flying, but generally true. Yes.
Yeah.
So that
different aircraft.
One of the things that I've noticed when I've flown GA with Fred, with Mike, with Steven.
Does it seem high and fast?
Every time we come into the pattern is like, holy crap, this looks like at least twice as steep a glide path as what I'm used to seeing. And I finally asked Mike about that. And I said, why is this so steep? And he mentioned the fact that you lose an engine in this thing and it's going to drop like a brick.
Yeah. And especially low wing aircraft. So some higher wing aircraft like Cessnas are going to glide a little bit better. It just depends on the aircraft. The Diamond products, which are low wing aircraft, have a very good glide ratio. A lot of the Piper products do not, especially the Arrow. That thing is a brick.
And more
you
so
lose
is
power in that, and you need to land immediately, basically.
Pretty much, it's a flying brick, and like the Cherokee, the Hershey bar wing Cherokee.
Yeah. Any of the Hershey bar wings are definitely
they drop like a brick, and basically the Oh my God, I'm having a brain fart of the name of the airplane, but it was known as the one engine, it's twin engine airplane, and it's 140 horse on each side. Basically,
Twin
the other engine, yeah, Geronimo, Geronimo. It would basically get you Geronimo. It would get you to the scene of the crash. That's all it would do if you were single engine. So
I want to fly an airplane with a Belgian dark chocolate wing.
I was going to say for our universal audience, a Hershey bar is a chocolate bar here in the United States.
Or basically a straight wing that is not very efficient. So, in Mike's aircraft, it's I know it's a is it a Musketeer? It's a beach
Musketeer.
Yes.
Okay, that aircraft has terrible glide distance on it as well.
Yeah.
So
that really surprised me. I just thought something like a GA airplane, would have a much better glide ratio than the airliners that we're flying, and it's not the case at all.
It's not the case.
Yeah.
A wing's a wing. It's just the basic design on it, and how efficient it is at producing lift. It's a wing is a wing.
Yeah. There you go. Well, there's your basic bottom line.
Tutorial.
A wing is a wing.
A wing is a wing. It's how it's designed.
And a plane tail is a plane tail, which means that it's now time. Oh, unless the good-looking Captain Jeff wanted to add anything to this discussion.
What can I say? I have a HUD.
Go away. We don't want to talk to you about this.
A wing is a wing unless it's a prayer.
Well, the other thing I have, commercially, like as a co-pilot, I could fly down to Cat 1 Mins. So I could get down to 200 feet. And if I only saw the rabbits, I could continue down to 100.
Did they have funny ears?
Yeah, big funny ears.
I'm always looking for those rabbits.
Oh, no. Don't bring that back. Oh, my gosh.
All right. It's now time for this week's installment of the Old Pilots Plane
Lost
Ticket.
control of that in a hurry.
Here we go.
The Old Pilot's Plane Tales, flown west. When I recently went for a Burton, a tale about the words we use in aviation, it appeared to tickle some of your fancies. So, since you enjoyed it so much, here's a little more. Some are a little more obscure and have fallen out of use, such as aeronaut. It literally means one who glides through the air, but mainly relating to doing so in an airship or balloon, or, to prevent more emails from Micah, an aerostat, rather than the method practiced by Dr. Steph, who plummets. See what I did there, Stephanie Plummer? At terminal velocity, through the air with grace, and a parachute. Aeronaut comes from Greek roots and is a combination of the word for air, aera, that's A, E with a squiggle over it, and an R, pronounced aera, and nautes. It was the French who put them together in the late 18th century to make aeronaut. Whilst the term pilot has gained greater traction, aeronaut became the basis for the family of terms that we still use, such as aeronautics, aeronautical, and even astronaut. Forgive me again, Dr. Steph, and other modern pilots of the female gender, but whilst this next term has quite correctly fallen out of common use, it has its place in history and is found in many texts from the early years of flying. It comes from the combination of aviator, from the French aviator, which itself comes from the Latin for bird, avis. I wonder if the car rental company knows that. Not sure if birds try harder really works for me. Plus the Latin aetur, used to form agent nouns. For this word, the term aviat is given the Latin female ending rix, giving the word aviatrix. But I agree that its modern use is potentially offensive, properly obsolete, and aviatrices all over the world just need to be called pilots, or quite often captain. Two, twice, or double in ancient Greek is dis, but you pronounce it with a silent S, from where we get die, without an X, which can prefix many words. If you saw two Captain Jeffs, I guess you could shout, "Die, Captain Jeff," but that might be open to misinterpretation. So how come we have a biplane and not a diplane? Ah, if only the Greeks and the Romans had got their feces into a mound. Bi has the same meaning, but it's of Latin origin. Back to the word in hand, add die to the ancient Greek word for the face of a geometrical solid, and you have the word for an angle between two plane surfaces, which in aeronautics, yep, we've just been there, refers to the slope of an aircraft's wing, specifically the upward slope, known as dihedral. The opposite type of slope, i.e. downward, is known as, pause to allow you to shout at your loudspeaker, or, more embarrassingly, apparently shout at some innocent passing stranger because you have earphones in, anhedral. Here, an is likely to come from a Middle English alteration of the Old English un, from the Latin in, or the Greek an, all of which mean no, and are used in relation to the Latin prefix anti, meaning against. Whatever, I've always loved the words dihedral and anhedral, as their use really separates those with a casual interest in aviation from those who have spent some time in study. But can we remember the aerodynamics behind the use of dihedral? You should know that it gives lateral stability to a design, but how? Well, when an aircraft is disturbed in roll by the standard Central Flying School puff of wind, it will start to side slip towards the lower wing, which means that the relative airflow now arrives at a slight angle. When wings have dihedral, this angled airflow meets the lower wing at an increased angle of attack wing compared with the higher wing, which gives it more lift and corrects the disturbance. Some aircraft don't want increased stability as they get enough from other features such as wing sweep or a high-mounted wing, so anhedral is introduced to improve roll rates and control response. Enough of that, let's move on to a terminal situation. I often wonder how wise it was to bring into everyday aviation parlance a term which is so often used when describing the end of something, particularly life. You have a terminal disease. This condition is terminal. If you touch those 1,000-volt terminals, the result could be terminal. Here we have to thank the Proto-Indo-Europeans for the word term, for boundary, and ter, meaning to pass through. Both the Greeks and the Romans used it in terma for goal and termon for border, as well as trans for through, across, or over, and possibly I enter or I go into. There's even a bit of Sanskrit in there, tar, to overcome. Whatever, it's the French who decided that we would start and end our aviation adventures at a terminal. The word was already in use for the railways, but you would have thought they might have used something more pleasant, like gateway to heaven. Perhaps not. How about pleasure portal? I'll think on that a bit. Pitch is something we do when we pull our noses up. Hang on, shouldn't that be a sneer? Oh no, I mean our aircraft's noses, and it describes movement around the lateral axis. It also describes throwing, tossing, casting, a playing field, selling, or promoting something. The gap between the teeth of a saw, gear, or printing letters. The angle of a roof, a place where a busker works, a section of rock face between billets or stances, or the limits of ground set to a miner who gets his share of ore. Not forgetting that pitch is also a sticky sap from a tree, the dark viscous distillation of crude oil, and a degree of darkness or blackness. Our pitch comes from the nautical term which describes the motion of a boat and also includes roll, yaw, and heave, which also doubles as a bout of antiperistalsis. Pitch originates with the Middle English pitchen, an assimilated variant of the word picken, from a similar Old English word, all of which come from Proto-Germanic, but can also be found in Old Norse and Swedish. We can, of course, pitch up or down, but what happens if we pitch up into a loop? When inverted, are we still pitching up, or is it now down? And if so, at what point did it change? An equally slippery term is slip, which in the third person singular simple presents as slips, present participle as slipping, simple past and past participle as slipped, and which comes from the Proto-Indo-European slub via the Middle Low German slippen, and that is just one of 3 lines of etymology. To slip an aircraft is to yaw it, so that it progresses in a crabwise and most uncomfortable manner. In a turn, it would be correctly described as uncoordinated, but slipping is often used to create extra drag on a high approach, to correct the situation, or perhaps to see past a long nose when lining up on the runway to land. But it's not something you will often see done in a big aircraft. To measure if our aircraft is slipping, or the corollary, skidding, we use one of the simplest instruments on the instrument panel, a little ball in a curved glass tube. Should we allow the nose of the aircraft to point into a turn, we are skidding. If it points out of a turn, we're slipping. To correct the situation, we apply rudder until the ball is back into the center of the tube and the aircraft is aligned with the relative airflow. Some aircraft use an even simpler device, a bit of string. I trust you'll forgive me if I leave skidding to another day. Yoke is a lovely word, and a device much loved by a particular type of pilot. In ancient Roman times, a yoke was an arch under which a defeated army was made to march. A yoke is a mechanism that couples, attaches, tethers, or otherwise fastens a pair of animals into position. A yoke is also used to join 2 people in a close relationship, which is why you find one on many kinds of airplanes. As to the origin, it goes back to the Greek zeugon and Latin jugum, meaning join, and then finds its way via Old German josh to Old English. In aircraft, yokes come in a variety of shapes and sizes, the most common being of a U or W design. However, some aircraft use an M style, such as the Embraer aircraft and Concorde. There are some rarer exotic or archaic styles, such as circular designs, much like a car steering wheel. In larger aircraft, they are usually mounted on a post, sticking out of the floor and getting in the way of your meal tray, and can be referred to as a control column. In most other planes with them, they are mounted on a tube that comes out of the instrument panel. Side sticks and center sticks are better for making rapid control inputs and dealing with high G-forces, hence their use in military, sport, and aerobatic aircraft. Yokes are less sensitive, thanks to a larger range of motion, so better for those not blessed with a delicate touch, and they take up more room than side sticks, sometimes even obscuring instruments. By comparison, side sticks are not intrusive, allow for the provision of tray tables bearing 3-course meals, and make it easier to move around. The comparison is, in the main, however, pointless, as any professional pilot worth his salt will fly well using whatever is in front of him. When I say to come to a stand, in this case I'm not referring to our parking position at the terminal, but actually to an intransitive of the 1400s, meaning become stuck or be set fast, to stall. The Old French estelle or English still were adopted to refer to an engine or engine-powered vehicle which became stuck or stopped. The earliest attested use of stall in the aeronautical meaning is in 1904, when Wilbur Wright himself, and congratulations for the recent anniversary of your first flight, old chap, stated that he allowed the machine to turn up too much and it stalled it. The noun form can be found 14 years later. He went straight up 300 feet and stalled and fell out of the stall right into the middle of the field. In our world of aviation, the stall occurs when a wing goes beyond the critical angle of attack and the smooth flow over the wing surface breaks down into a turbulent, inefficient mess that will no longer produce enough lift to support the weight of the aircraft. Whilst speaking of our favorite bicycle makers, the Wright brothers, I must thank them for the next device, which they attached to the front of their first powered aeroplane, a duck. A large number of early aircraft designs had ducks fitted, since many were suspicious of putting one on the back after the famous pioneer of flight, Otto Lilienthal, had been killed in a glider of that design. Some tried flying without a duck at all, but they were very difficult to control. The problem was that duck behavior wasn't properly understood, and by 1914, W.E. Evans commented that the duck-type model has practically received its death blow as far as scientific models are concerned. That didn't stop the Germans from playing with ducks, and in 1927, Focke-Wulf built the F-19 with a duck. Funnily enough, they called their aircraft a duck. Enter in German, which does mean duck. The design was inherently safe, since the duck is designed to stall before the wings, which made the duck effectively stall-proof. Perhaps these ducks are becoming a bit confusing, so I should probably revert to the original French word for a foreplane or control surface that's situated in front of the wing, a canard, or more correctly, canard. French for duck. Sadly, Focke-Wulf's co-founder, George Wolf, was killed when the F-19 Enter came down following the failure of a control rod. The use of a duck as a common control design re-emerged in the jet age, and particularly with supersonic design. The North American Valkyrie and the Soviet Sukhoi T-4 both had canards, but it was the Swedish Saab company that overcame earlier problems with their close-coupled duck design on the Viggen. Nowadays, ducks are everywhere, from Mirages to Sukhois, from Beechcraft to Eurofighters. What is interesting about the term canard is that it also is used to describe a fabricated or unfounded report or story. But let me assure you that this particular story will not prove to be entirely a canard, since the term's use in aviation comes from the arrival of the Santos Dumont 14 bis aircraft of 1906, which, with its long fuselage stretching forward from the wings and sporting a box-like foreplane, was said to look like a duck, or canard. The word itself comes from the Old French, "queni," to quack, which also means hoax, so...
Duck, you sucker!
Flying west is American for gone for a burden. Generally, it seems to be connected to the earliest parts of human history and the direction of the setting sun, symbolizing the end of the day, and so, figuratively, the end of one's life. Going west has been used to refer to dying since at least the 16th century, and it's sometimes said that it refers to the ride westward that condemned prisoners in London took from Newgate Prison to the gibbet at Tyburn, where Marble Arch now stands, though the idea is probably much older. The land of the setting sun was thought to be the abode of the dead for many cultures. for the sun was seen as dying each night and being reborn in the morning. The American Heritage Dictionary of Idioms states that it was first recorded in a poem of the early 1300s. Women and many a willful man, as wind and water, have gone west. It's possible that the idea goes back to Roman times, where west and death were linked. Indeed, the word Occident, meaning west, is similar to the Latin for I fall down, perish. The Celts believed that the land of the dead was in the west. Avalon and other such abodes of the dead were called the Western countries. To the Celts, nothing was out to the west but water and the end of the world. Past that was found paradise. It may surprise some, but going west was also a term used by old Egyptians, as in Egyptian mythology, the dead went west across the Nile to the afterlife after passing judgment, as the western desert was not generally inhabited in ancient times and was presumed to be the land of the dead. So, if I were you, I'd keep heading east, young man.
Very, very nice. I love those kind of plain tales.
I don't know the movie reference at all.
I don't either.
I was
No?
trying to pick it out.
No.
No, I have no idea.
Well, it's one of the spaghetti westerns, so it's one of the fistful of dollars.
probably-
And it is called, well, there are two different titles depending on where you lived. One was Duck You Suckers, and the other was A Fistful of Dynamite. And it's not Clint Eastwood, but two other actors whose names have momentarily escaped me. But if you've never seen it, it is a treat that you will thoroughly enjoy when you're sitting back with your tummies full of turkey and brim full of lovely wine. Just kick it up on wherever you can get it and watch A Fistful of Dynamite. It's funny, it's clever, brilliant.
A Fistful of Dynamite.
Yep.
Quack.
Better than
Exactly.
Blazing Saddles?
Yep, afraid so. It's better
What?
than Blazing.
No.
And
No way.
no, it is seriously, because it's sentimental, it's funny, it's well made, it's wonderfully directed, superbly acted. It's just a classic, and if you have never seen it, well, you could just a treat ahead of you.
All I can say is, die, Jeff.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was hoping by now we would have forgotten.
Nope. Definitely haven't forgotten.
He said that with really great emotion.
Yeah, he did.
Almost. I did my best.
Oh, man. Well, another job well done. Thank you, Nick.
I enjoyed it. That was
Great.
fun. I like those, but I'm going to leave a gap now. I need to do my Christmas outtakes next.
Excellent.
Okay.
Always look forward to those.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's resume our feedback with.
Before you do, can I?
Yeah.
I raise my bottle to a white Christmas.
Oh,
Merry Christmas to everybody. From Boston, Sam Adams.
of a white Christmas.
I don't know the rest of it.
Just like the ones I used to know. What
Yes,
movie
that's
did it come
Just like the
from?
ones I used to know.
Holiday Inn.
There you go.
Something be merry and bright. Yeah, I don't know.
Really great.
And may all your Christmases be white. There you go.
Something like that.
Okay.
And
but
happy
it's
holidays.
amazing that I actually, what people are probably shocked at, that I'm actually drinking a beer, and it's White Christmas. So,
But it's Sam Adams, so we're not
It is.
that surprised.
Yeah.
of course not.
From Boston.
Boston. Sorry to interrupt, but continue.
Well, let's go from Boston to Texas, where Texas Charlie sends us feedback. Guys and gals, Merry Christmas to all. Even Santa is getting the short end of this pilot shortage stick. Read on. This is from a satirical site. That's
Satirical?
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. Duffelblog.com. And so this is from Santa's Workshop, The North Pole is in the midst of a readiness crisis as it struggles to fill its pilot ranks with qualified reindeer who are leaving the service in record numbers to work at commercial sleigh lines, sources confirmed today.
Typical.
Yeah. Santa Claus claims he has only 75% of the deer power he needs to deliver presents this year, especially in crucial heavy lift squadrons.
Where's Rudolph when you need him?
I know. This is truly alarming. There's no way I'll be able to deliver presents to all the good girls and boys, let alone coal to all the naughty ones like Dana. Said Claus. The reindeer we do have are being worked to the antler, flying 3 or 4 gumdrop sorties a day. Santa is offering hefty incentive bonuses to keep reindeer from leaving for more lucrative jobs at the commercial sleigh lines like Lufthansa. Even offers of triple helpings of moss and herbs are not enough to keep them in service. Unless he can fix the retention problem soon, Santa says he might have to cancel Christmas across large swaths of North and South America.
Well, hey, Europe's fine.
Yeah.
We're good. Yeah.
And
just you
he
guys.
can bring me coal. That would make me a rich man because then I would chew on the coal and poop diamonds. So that's perfect. Thank you, Santa.
You
Just
can
burn
turn
it
coal
and
into
convert it
diamonds.
into power
Yes.
in a non-ecological friendly manner. Ecologically.
All I can say is all the ladies would love me.
Are we somehow shifting into environmental thing right now?
We're going green.
I was doing the opposite of that, but
Recycling, but that's okay.
We're not going green.
not going green.
Yeah.
It's more like, yeah. Over there.
Well, anyway, you want to read the whole thing, look at the show notes for the link that Texas Charlie sent us from the duffelblog.com. And moving on.
By
Yes?
the way, that's the ugliest reindeer I've ever seen.
Hold on, I have to
and
pull it back up.
Graham said,
Well, I mean-
Jeff and Dana need the coal to keep the mad dog flying.
That's right, we do.
We do.
Yeah,
coal
it's not.
shortage.
It's not the most flattering picture of a reindeer.
No, that's
It's
not
kind
the
of
worst.
not. It's not his good side. It's just one side.
Yeah.
Not the good side.
The framing was just a little off. Because you don't see the
I mean, Captain Nick could have done so much better.
Oh, yeah.
With that subject.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he certainly does not look happy to have his photograph taken.
No.
You
Poor.
talking to me?
David.
Reindeer.
David writes, I'm trying to move this thing along. Hello.
Also, reindeer is delicious if you've never had reindeer.
Yes, I've eaten them. They're very good.
Okay.
Let's get a hoof on.
Sorry, Jeff. Carry on.
I'm going to poke you with my antler.
Uh-oh.
I recently discovered your podcast and am now a regular passenger. I wish I had discovered it sooner, as I don't think I will have the time to catch up on all the past episodes.
Rubbish. Poor excuse.
And I'm sure I have missed out on some entertaining discussions. Oh, yeah, you have. And, of course, fascinating plane tales.
Let's just say, just listen to episode 200.
No, let's not say that. Like many of your listeners, I suspect, I've always dreamed of being a pilot, but somehow I've never followed that dream. I'm in my mid-30s with a young family to support, so I think the dream is going to be difficult for me to follow. But I haven't given up all hope just yet. Listening to the podcast certainly inspires me to keep the dream alive. Anyhow, I have an aviation question for you, so I hope you find it interesting enough to discuss. On a recent Flybe flight from Paris, Charles de Gaulle to Southampton, SOU, we had a slightly uncomfortable landing, which has left me with a few thoughts, and I wonder if the APG crew and community can shed some light on them. We departed Charles de Gaulle about 20 minutes late on a Bombardier Q400, or as Matt Smith says, Bombardier. No. Is that
Bombardier?
Bombardier. There we go. Bombardier. The flight was pleasant with clear views across the channel and along the Solent. Is that the way?
That's right. Yeah.
The strait between the Isle of Wight and the mainland on which the cities of Southampton and Portsmouth reside. Although Southampton is my city, I must admit that the view of rival city Portsmouth is more interesting on the approach, especially with the historic naval dockyard, which features HMS Victory, Nelson's flagship at the Battle of Trafalgar. in 1805.
Very good. I'm suspicious though because he's misspelled Isle of Wight.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, there's no H. It's just
It's
Isle of
Wiget.
Oh,
Wight.
IGHT.
Yeah.
Not white as in the color.
You know, I have to give him a break here because he's probably doing it for my benefit because he knows that if he spelled it correctly, I would have mispronounced it.
Yeah, good point.
Anyway, we approached the airport from the south, runway 2, and I felt that we seemed to be approaching lower than usual. I wasn't particularly alarmed by this, and it may have just been my perception, but it did seem that we might soon be making eye contact with the birds in the treetops if we got any lower. And that was before we crossed the 6-lane M27 motorway to reach the airport perimeter. What followed is what leads me to my questions. As soon as we touched down, the pilot was immediately very hard on the brakes, much harder than I'm used to on landing. It soon became clear that the reason for this rapid deceleration was so that we could exit the runway at the second and last taxiway to avoid doing a 180 turn further along and coming back on ourselves. I've since looked at Google Maps, and the distance between the threshold and this exit is roughly 737 meters, which for us non-metric people is 2,419 feet. That's not very much. My first question is it possible that the pilot chose to touch down before the threshold? I assume this would be frowned upon, but I don't know if it's forbidden. Secondly, I'm reluctant to question the professionalism of the crew, but do you consider it potentially irresponsible to apply brakes in such a way just for saving a few minutes? I realize that this is just my recollection of the events, and I could be completely off course, but I would be interested to hear your thoughts on it. Certainly, as I sat drinking coffee a few days later, overlooking the runway before our return flight to Paris, I noticed all of the larger planes going beyond this exit and turning around on the taxiway. By the way, Southampton is a small airport, and the largest planes to operate are Flybees, Bombardiers, and Embraers, but it's a little bit famous due to an incident that has been featured on Mayday Air Crash Investigation. That was British Airways Flight 5390, which suffered an explosive decompression when a cockpit window was blown out. The plane landed at Southampton with the captain hanging half inside and half outside the cockpit. He miraculously survived the incident, as did all on board. And Liz, helpfully puts a note in here, says that Nick did a plane tale on that particular episode, Flight 5390, and the title of said plane tale is I Believe He Is Dead. And that was featured on Airline Pilot Guy episode 248. And you can find it by just doing a search on the website, and we have a separate plane tales feed, and you'll be able to go right directly to it, and you won't have to listen to all the other stuff that is on
which we love. We love the stuff.
Of course we do.
Or just listen to the stuff.
Yeah, just listen to the stuff.
And then
that
the plane
stuff.
tales.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor.
Clear skies, soft landings, tailwinds, etc. to all, David. And so yes?
I was going to say, can I chime in on this as a former turboprop pilot?
Yes, I put a airport diagram for your perusal.
I have pulled it up as well with the non-metric information as well.
Oh, okay. Very good. So Dana, you put your hand up first, so go ahead. I'll call on you.
Yeah, I mean, number one, it's a matter of assessment by the pilots flying and a perception of you as to what you felt, David. And when we touch down, it really depends on at what point we touch down. If we touch down right in the touchdown zone, it may be realistic to make it. Now, I have to say the Q400 and the Brasilia are not very different in the fact that you can go right into beta, which actually feels very much like the fact that you're really slowing down rapidly. That amount of runway was at 2419 to that point. For a turboprop actually is not a whole lot of you don't need that much runway with turboprop, especially when you go into beta. They stop very efficiently, and maybe the pilot judged it based on the fact that where he touched down in the touchdown zone, he could easily make it. It may have felt like you hanging on the hanging on the brakes a little bit more excessively, and that may be true, but it's not an unsafe operation, especially in a turboprop aircraft. Now, if you see other aircraft going longer, like you mentioned that that they fly more, other type of RJs, maybe the last few times you've flown in there, you may have been on an RJ, and they're not, of course, very efficient at stopping, especially if depending on which type of RJ. Did he say? I'm forgetting.
He said, well, no, he said a
He said
Q400.
Embraers and Bombardiers, and he
Bombardier. So
he was on a
Yeah.
Bombardier Q400.
So
That's a
well,
Dash
Bombardier, but I mean, if
Dash
he's Bombardier, if he's referring to maybe the 200, that aircraft doesn't have slats, so there's no way in its world that it's going to make it in the 700 or 900. They're also going to take up much more runway space, more than 900 than the 700, but they're
those are Canada regional.
Regional
You're talking
Well,
about
no, they can't, but Bombardier Canadair.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So he could be saying, it may be it's a Canadair jet, but it's made by Bombardier. So it's all a matter of perception. I don't think, unless it's an icy runway or an unusual circumstance, maybe they were tight on their schedule, they were already running late. There are a whole lot of parameters, but no, your perception of a lower approach, that could be very much the fact that you're in the turboprop versus a C200, the Canadair Bombardier Canadair 200, which has a different approach profile simply because it doesn't have slats. So there are a lot of factors here that I think could play into it. I don't think that they were operating unsafe to make that taxiway, especially with it being a Q400.
So if you look at the airport diagram, just to give our listeners a idea of what's going on, if he touches down on runway 02, there are actually two taxiway options. One is Alpha 1, which it'd be hard pressed to make that in a 150. It could be done.
I did it.
I've done it. It's fine.
On that very airfield, I made Alpha 1 in a 150.
You can make it in a 150. You're not going to make it in a Q400. It's not going to happen. Let's just put that out there. The runway itself is 1,723 meters, which is, I just lost my taxi diagram, 5,653 feet. And taxiway B, which is the second and last option to exit the runway before you have to make a 180 and come back, is not quite halfway down the airfield there after the touchdown zone. So, I mean, for a Q400, I don't know. I don't fly the aircraft, but it seems reasonable that if you did some reasonable braking for it, you could make that taxiway and exit the runway. But it would probably be, a pretty good deceleration.
Well, I mean, the turboprop. I mean,
going to, and however you're using, whether it's in beta with brakes, whatever, it's just going to feel like a pretty firm braking process.
I mean, it's not uncommon for a regional turboprop aircraft to go into a 3,000-foot runway. Okay, and it can make that very easily.
Yeah, but did they have to do that?
Well, that's a matter of judgment on the captain and the first officer's part. I mean, do they have to? Probably may not.
I'm not saying it was not safe. I'm wondering if it was smart. And
well, guys, there's another option here that you haven't discussed, and this happens in the Caribbean a lot, because at the Caribbean you have a lot of runways like this, where the only place to exit the runways is
like the midpoint. Yep.
Yeah, is at the midpoint. Like Port-au-Prince is the perfect example. You got 10,000 feet of runway, but the only way to get off is dead center.
Yeah.
And yeah, he can make that turnoff in a turboprop piece of cake. It's not a big deal. But the big thing is, you have sometimes they want you to try to make those turnoffs because there's somebody behind you.
Right.
And you have to realize, if he has to go turn around, he's closing the runway until he clears.
Yeah, so we don't know.
So I had a similar situation that I observed as a passenger on a Britten Norman Islander landing in. Yeah, it's a great aircraft. I love that airplane. In Antigua, and kind of the same thing. There's actually multiple exits from that runway, if I remember correctly, but basically what the pilot was clearly trying to do was land and stop within an appropriate distance to where he wanted to exit the runway to taxi to the parking space. So we landed quite long. I'm looking at us, and I was actually sitting in the right seat in the front of the aircraft because no one else wanted to sit there. I was like, I'll sit there.
And he kept having to slap Steph's hands.
I know, like, stop touching the controls.
Don't.
No, it was fine. But
I've
you're
watched
looking
guys
at you're
do
looking
that
at the
in press
Pappy, and you've got 4 white lights on the Pappy. And I'm like, where are you going, dude? But that's because he purposefully was touching down long because it was a very long runway. This is a aircraft that stops very short, short takeoff landing type of aircraft, and no problem to make the taxiway that he was looking for. But it's just kind of interesting watching that happen. And I don't know who was behind us. I didn't have a headset. I had no idea who was on the radio behind us and possibly landing behind us that we needed to vacate the runway for. So you never know what else is going on in terms of the operation.
No, I mean, maybe somebody's waiting to take off. I mean, the reality is we can't Monday morning quarterback this because we don't know exactly what's going on. But hey,
we do it all the time.
We're doing it right now.
Well, the other thing, if you look at the runway diagram, a guy can't come on the runway to take off until this guy clears as well.
Yeah, until he clears Alpha 1.
And that's what Antigua's that same way. Yep. I've watched that Islander do that exact approach, Steph. Yep. Maybe I saw you do it. I don't know.
You may have. You may have.
I mean, for us to make that, it's past midfield at that airport. For us not to go to the end, you have to land pretty much on brick 1, and you have to stand on them. Full reverse, full brakes as fast as you can.
Right.
And
it just depends on the aircraft type. I mean, it's a 5,600 foot long runway. So, it's very different for a 737 or an MD-88, MD-90 versus.
As a former turboprop regional pilot, I can tell you this: we will tend to stop shorter and faster than a jet will, and we'll try to make that taxiway Bravo. In my experiences, we would try to make that. So that's just the turboprops are very efficient on the ground of stopping and stopping fast.
The only thing I'll say before we move on is the fact that I have seen.
For those of you listening to the audio, that was Dana's hat that he's wearing. His very festive holiday hat. Sings.
And it dances.
And it dances.
Jeff, you look so amused.
I am very amused.
I am.
That time it was perfect.
The only thing I'll say, other than singing that nice little ditty, is that I have seen so many really, really nice landings ruined by people after having a beautiful touchdown, jamming on the brakes, and everybody hanging in your shoulder straps, and sometimes even hearing screams from the back of the airplane just to try to make a taxiway. I'm thinking, what the heck are you thinking? That's the only thing they're going to remember when they get off the airplane is.
And you know what happens when they get off the airplane? They give you a very nice greeting when they get off the airplane.
Oh yeah, much like the one that I received not too long ago.
What are you, a Navy pilot landing on a carrier?
Yeah. So I mean, thank you.
Who's number one?
Yeah, I'm number 1.
You're number 1, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks. So anyway,
but I'm with you, Jeff.
I
mean, he was 20 minutes late trying to make up some time. You either accept the fact that it's going to be an uncomfortable landing and you're going to save 5 minutes at least, or you have a nice smooth rollout. Everyone's happy, and they don't know that you could have turned off early, so they don't really care. They've no way to tell.
Yeah.
My flight instructor taught me a long time ago, the number 1 thing is smoothness counts. End of conversation.
In anybody listening, environment, absolutely.
And anybody that's listening to this is thinking of becoming an airline pilot, that is an airline pilot, that is a former military pilot that's flying airliners, smoothness counts. End of conversation.
Yes.
And by the way, we do not land in the overrun.
Oh yeah, good point. We forgot that part. That was at the beginning. Yeah, I don't think there is a displaced threshold there, a small, short displaced threshold.
It's not a lot. It's a couple hundred feet.
Yeah. I don't think that,
it was like 200 feet or something. I looked it up on here. I don't remember.
We're not allowed to land short prior to the threshold. That's a no.
No. It is for runway 02. It is 240 feet.
Yeah.
It's
But
not a huge amount.
Not a ton.
Just got this in from Liz. Breaking news. New has watched the latest Gatwick
I think
news.
that's Nev.
Nev. Okay.
Yeah.
Another drone sighted tonight. Airport closed until tomorrow morning, and the CAA will decide in the morning if and when the airport will reopen. So more troubles for Gatwick and the drone controversy. Okay. And wow. Well, we're running out of time quickly here. We have about 10 minutes left, and I wanted to play so many of these things. Looking at this list of things, my dear co-hosts. Let's just do this one quickly. We talk about support animals, emotional support animals.
Yes. Are you talking about Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Near and dear to Colonel Jeff's heart and my heart, and you were just there.
Yeah.
Mention it.
Chuck, Gus, Sean, several of you sent in links to this story in Philadelphia. Stressed out holiday travelers at the Philadelphia International Airport can now bring an emotional support chicken carrier with them on their flight, courtesy of Popeyes, Louisiana Chicken. Starting December 18th, flyers who love that chicken from Popeyes, I see what they did there. Love that chicken from Popeyes, can have their 3-piece tenders combo meal placed in a bird-shaped box. During what is predicted to be a record-breaking holiday travel season, the fast food chain wanted to provide some soul food stress relief. So anyway, look at the picture in the show notes of the cute little carrying box for...
I'm half tempted just to make a short trip to Philadelphia to get the box.
Is Philadelphia the only place you can get one of these?
As far as I know. I mean, we don't have Popeyes. We have Bojangles, and they don't
we have
have
Popeyes in Atlanta.
Do you?
Yeah. Not in the airport. Yeah, we have
know
in the
you have
airport.
Popeyes.
No. It's got to be in the airport.
Yeah, we do
you
have
got
like at least
Popeyes.
2. Yeah, I think at least 2 of them, right? On
Yeah.
B and D, I think.
Actually, the one on B is supposedly the busiest Popeyes in the country.
Oh, it's got to be. I believe
It's got to be.
In Atlanta?
Yeah.
I believe it.
But I know you have. I'm pretty sure you have Popeyes in Charlotte.
No, we have Bojangles.
Well, we have Bojangles too. We have Church's Chicken.
No, anything
And
other than
Kentucky
Bojangles
Fried
here
Chicken.
is sacrilegious. I promise.
Oh my!
We don't want to start any
That's enough
religious wars
chicken,
here.
guys. That's enough chicken.
Okay.
We love our fried chicken here in the South.
We do.
I just want to carry the
certainly
box
do.
around in uniform.
Oh my God. Please do and take a picture. Send it to us. I'll be so happy.
Yes, you have.
I got a 4-day trip. I'm going to be looking.
Okay. We'll put it out there, Jeff.
I get a
Dana,
6-day trip
Dana,
coming
grab
up.
one when you come through.
Yeah, well, I've got 6 days coming up, so I'll be looking for sure.
Going
Do I come through Philly? I'm checking
He's
right
coming
now.
through, Christmas Day, I think?
Stand by. I'm checking. Not chicken. I mean, not chicken. But
Hey,
I'm
while you're
You're
doing
chicken,
that,
not chicken.
I'm going to play.
Yes, I'm in Philadelphia. I am in Philadelphia on the 20. What day? It's 25th. On
It's
Christmas.
called Christmas Day.
Day.
You wouldn't know because you're Jewish.
And with that, let's move on to
What?
now. Let's hear from our good friend, Captain Steve. Hang on. Captain Steve has got laryngitis, I think.
Hey, Captain Jeff and APG crew. This is from Captain Steve here. Currently wearing 3 stripes for Acme Purple. In my car, headed to the airport in my hometown here. Headed to my first day of work. Finished up IOE last week. Did a couple weeks of IOE after training. And this is the first operational flight that I'm going to be doing that is out of the training environment. It feels really good to finally be done with training. Started back in August, and finally, if I didn't say that once, I'll say it again. Finally, am done with training. So, crazy thing. I've been being paid all day today to sit at home, play with the kids, hang out with the family. The trip was in open time, and it started with a deadhead up to my hometown, and then sit here all day and do one operational flight back to our sort facility in Memphis. And I picked it up at time and a half. So I feel like I'm scamming the system a little bit, but after that length of training and at the scales that they were having us on, it feels really good to actually finally do some work and actually get paid for it. So just want to give you guys an update about the progress with that. It's the people over here at Acme Purple are really great, a lot of fun, super knowledgeable, and really bend over backwards to help everybody that they come in contact with. Just some of that down south hospitality, I think, is what it is. Anyway, clear skies, tailwinds, y'all, and we'll talk to you later.
Love that chicken from Popeyes. Down south. I love that little southern accent he threw in there at the very end.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Steve. He's the guy that does the How I Got Here. Great little productions. And I told him that he has to continue to do that after he gets all settled in there.
His audio quality has dropped off a bit.
Yeah.
Well, that was not the high production value. High.
Yeah, Steve, you got to work
where's
on
that
that.
where's that nice little jazz, background that tinkles?
It's hard to believe it's the
He'll,
same
he'll
Steve,
get back
isn't
to it. He'll get back to it. Just he's getting settled in over there at Acme Purple.
Yeah.
Somebody call it. Yeah. So give him a little bit of time, and he'll be back.
Yeah, looking
No
forward
doubt
to the
about it.
next one.
Good to hear from you.
Absolutely.
And quickly,
congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. 8, Matt. Speaking, we just heard about Steve's progress, an update on his progress. We're going to hear from Matt. He says, just a quick bit of feedback and an update on my flight training. I've recently progressed onto the CPL phase of flight training over here in Australia, and I'm really enjoying the challenges and freedom from the training area that comes with it. I've also recently been advised that you can't retroactively add a disclaimer regarding APG's responsibility in my decision to quit a perfectly good career to switch to aviation. Yeah, you can't.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're on your own. As always, Captain Nick's plain tales are one of the many best parts of the show. And as a member of Civil...
Oh, thank you.
Tell us how you really feel, Captain Jeff.
Yeah.
No, I agree with them. And as a member of Civilized Society, I really enjoyed the tale about Biggles, as my grandfather read it to my father as a boy, and he, in turn, read this to my brothers. And
Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah,
that's very cool.
I would like to suggest Nikki Barr, a World War II RAAF pilot, as a topic for Plain Tales, and a suggested read. I've tried to attach the blurb off the back of his book as a summary of some of his exploits, but apparently it didn't get attached. Anyway, if Glaucus is still interested in, I'm flying with a school that has a base at Bankston, or is that Bankstown?
Bankstown.
Bankstown. Okay. That sounds like it matches the description from his feedback, and am happy if you pass on my details, and I'll try to answer from my perspective any questions I can regarding full versus part-time courses, being a mature, and he puts in parentheses, more in age than actions student, and payment options, HEX, vet fee, help, etc. Keep up the good work, and I wish you and everyone in the APG community a Merry Christmas and a safe and prosperous New Year. Matt from Oz. That's Matt Thomas. Thank you, Matt, for the update on your training progress and the information for G-Man. And that, I think, is going to have to be it. We still have great feedback next time from Philip from Switzerland. A great interview that Nev did with a APG fan, Andrew, and James, a new listener. So that and many more, I'm sure, on the next episode. And if you would like to learn more about the community, head over to airlinepilotguy.com, and that's all kinds of good stuff there. And we're also on social media.
We are. You can check us out on Twitter using the handle @APG Crew. Interact with us there in 280 characters or less. All of our individual Twitter information is pinned to the top of the page if you'd like to interact with us one-on-one. You can also find us on facebook.com/airline pilot guy. All kinds of community interaction going on there. Information about meetups, information about happenings in the world of aviation, stories being shared, folks getting to know one another, and we look forward to seeing you there.
We also have a Slack team.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share ideas and news. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo @airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled HI11E1, Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks, Hillel. And until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care. God bless, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Cheers, y'all.
Hi, have a great time, everybody. Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
Happy Merry Christmas and happy holidays to everybody. Be safe out there.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all,
brilliant.
Good night.
I'm sorry. Say it again, Jeff.
Merry Christmas to all, and to all, a good night.
Brilliant.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Your volume's so low compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you start talking. Sorry.
I don't know what it is, because last time this thing worked fine.
Yeah. I don't.
Feliz Navidad.
Feliz Navidad.
I love the hat.
Woohoo. Wish you a Merry Christmas. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy
Good Lord, it's
New
not
Year.
midnight yet. I don't believe it. I
There's
didn't
left
believe
something
it.
there on
Oh,
your
you stopped 30 minutes early.
23:22.
23:26.
Oh yeah, 26. I can read my watch.
Oh,
Balch wants to add a fifth member. Hey, Pretty Jeff, you want to be added to the show?
What do you mean?
Well, James Balch wants to add you to the show.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's not up to me.
It might have to grow a mustache.
Depends on how much money.
Well, I did have a mustache until about 2 weeks ago.
I know.
We saw some of us saw it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I gotta head out. I get someplace I need to be by 7.
Oh.
All right.
So
7.
Get out of here.
Adios.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry
I'll catch you on the
Christmas.
next show, hopefully.
Thanks, Dana.
And,
Merry Christmas, Dana.
Good to see you on the show.
Great to see you guys. What a great show tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Lovely.
All right. Don't talk about me too much when I'm gone.
Of
All
course
the
we will.
You betcha.
I plan on hearing it all.
Can't get enough of that. Oh man, that was funny.
Did anyone tell him to turn off his recorder?
No. Just let that go.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
We'll find out tomorrow.
I'm going to turn mine off
drive.
right now, though.
Yeah, when Jeff gets a 24-hour-long recording.
He's had words from me.
And 90% of it will it be his hat going off. Excellent.
How long was the longest one I recorded? Like
It was like
72 hours or something?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It was,
Forgot to turn the
it was a big
recorder
file.
I had a hard time figuring out how to edit that. Yeah. It's not good.
Yeah, did I ever even use any of that?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Forget it. Yeah, we can.
Just
no, don't worry.
don't worry about it. I've stopped this one. It's all good.
I really do try to just use the track with all of you on it together,
Mhm.
but sometimes it just doesn't work at all. This one is going to be a little bit difficult to just adjust all the levels, but I have some
Sorry about that.
software I have some software that deals with that kind of thing, so it does a pretty good job. I was trying to ride the fader. You guys couldn't probably hear that, but No, you can't. I know for sure you couldn't hear it because this channel, the one that I'm riding the fader on, I'm not sending back to you all. It's
No,
the,
we don't hear it.
yeah.
Colonel
So-
Jeff just comes across as being kind of quiet.
I honestly don't know what it is because I'm not doing anything different than I did the last time.
So you're just plugging it in directly to your Mac.
That's where it is. It's plugged in directly to the Mac.
And how about the and how are you monitoring? Are you plugging into the microphone itself?
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
I'm plugged into the back of the microphone for the earbud.
Okay. So I don't think the volume on that has anything to do with the input volume. It's only the output.
There's a volume on the back of the mic, but it's just for the earpiece because I tried messing with that too. I mean, I tried resetting all kinds of things.
The only thing I can think of is that in the sound preferences panel on the input thing and just making sure the slide was all the way to the right. That's the only thing I can think of.
And I think he looked at that.
Yeah, you already checked that. So who knows? It's probably one of those things. Sometimes with a USB device, you pull it out and you push it back in again.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm gonna do.
Yes.
And it just magically fixes it, like what Steph did before we
Yeah,
started
I mean,
recording.
Is that any
like-
better now?
No.
Did that fix it?
I think that sounds a little better. No?
Is it?
Oh, I think it sounds a little better. Yeah.
Oh, is
Yeah.
it? Okay.
It got a little louder.
Oh, because I got everything. It's blowing me out of my headsets, but I got to turn my earplugs down.
Okay.
But I
Yeah,
got
it
everything.
sounds-
Okay, let's
It actually
redo the whole
does
show
sound a
then.
little better.
Now that Jeff.
Oh, let's
Okay.
redo the whole thing. Okay, sorry,
All right.
guys. Oh, I know
Ready?
what to do next time then. Yeah. Got the intro ready? Call
Yeah.
Dana back.
Here we go.
Dana.
APG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 354.
Take two.
Anyway, it was great having you on the show with us, Jeff.
Oh, it was fun.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Start the recorders.
You're going to have fun with that feedback on Zurich because that place, having been there, I don't know if you've been there, Nick, but it's a nightmare.
Zurich?
Zurich?
Switzerland?
No.
Yeah, it's the crossing runways and how they're angled, and the terrain makes it very difficult getting in and out of.
Which feedback was that?
There's some
The-
audio.
The
well,
one
it's
he was
actually,
talking about that's the last one Jeff was talking
Oh,
about.
I see it. Number 2. Late
yeah, from
departures, yeah. Philip.
yeah, Philip.
Gotcha.
A very definitely professional pilot on
I've-
the radios.
Yeah, I've got a
Yeah.
I've got
Wow.
a friend in Zurich who keeps asking me to come visit, so maybe one day I'll get there.
Oh, it's beautiful.
No, I really want to go. It's just
It's really expensive, but it's beautiful.
she's worth visiting.
Money's no object for stuff.
Yeah,
she's
that's
a,
true.
She's a great friend. I need to go visit.
Uh-oh.
Cool. What?
Oh.
What's happened?
I just had a big black dot in the middle of my screen.
That's your microphone.
Yeah, just go like this.
Yeah. Oh.
Move around it a little bit.
I'm not that short.
Well,
Have you checked your glasses lately?
Yeah, we can't see you, Jeff. We just see this big black dot.
Yeah.
Anyway. I wasn't even looking at the chat room here. What's going on over there?
Oh.
Oh, the
Chocolate
usual.
Steph. What's that?
That's for Switzerland, for Zurich, I think.
Ah.
Yeah. No, I'd like to get there sometime soon. We'll see. Maybe 2019.
That wouldn't be chocolate Steph. That would be cuckoo Steph.
Cuckoo.
Cacao.
Cuckoo.
Like
Cuckoo.
cuckoo clocks?
Yeah, because they make that's the only things, the only two things that come out of Switzerland: chocolate and cuckoo clocks.
They used to have a sound effect. Cuckoo clock. Oh well, it's there somewhere. Well, everyone, let's see. Christmas Day is Tuesday. So I wouldn't put my bets on recording another show until after Christmas Day.
Really?
Sometime.
You're not going to do it Christmas Day?
I mean, I could do a Christmas Day.
I could probably do a Christmas Day.
I could probably do a Christmas Day.
Well, you know what? Maybe we'll be doing
speaking.
Christmas Day. Huh?
I said if I'm up to speaking.
Well, you're going to continue to lose your voice, you think?
No, I'm going to have minor dental surgery tomorrow.
Oh, I assumed you would be drunk.
No.
It's called stoned.
It's called, well, no, I don't even get that many drugs. It's not fair.
Is it going to be painful? Is it
Nah,
going
I'll
to
be
be painful?
fine. Nah, I'll be fine.
Well, I know you probably have a high pain threshold.
Yeah. I can't imagine this will be the worst thing I've ever been through, so I'll be fine.
That sounds great. The worst thing you've been through is having to be with us here every week.
I mean, I was kind of alluding to that, but I didn't want to say it
got it.
specifically. So
Poor HR.
All right, well, everybody, we're going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then, sometime next week we'll be back. So,
Yep.
Indeed.
For the Christmas show.
Yeah, we might.
This wasn't the Christmas show?
No,
I don't
you guys
know.
shouldn't want Christmas stuff. It's not the Christmas
We
show.
never even used to do a Christmas show. Do you remember? Jeff said,
Yeah.
no, we don't do a Christmas show. We just
Did I
carry
say
on
that?
regardless. Yeah, you
I'm
used
pretty
to.
sure we've always
Ah,
worn,
humbug,
like,
you used to say. We don't do a Christmas show.
Wait a minute. I don't remember all this. All right. Well, we'll discuss this
Anywho.
off air.
Yeah,
So
fair
I'm going to
enough.
stop
HR will
the
have some
broadcast.
words.
Yeah. Jeff, stay there. Don't go
Don't
anywhere.
leave.
I'm just
Don't
stopping
leave.
the broadcast. All right.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Say
Merry
goodnight, Dick.
Christmas.